Okay, so now we will animate this YouTube logo. Now I have this logo file over here. I got this logo from Google. You can use any logo if you want, but I'm going to stick with this logo. And now I have opened this logo in Adobe Photoshop. Now again, what we need to do over here, that we need to remove this white background. So I'm going to select this and I'll go to the select option and I'm going to choose color range, and with the help of this picker I'm going to select this white color, and fuzziness I'm going to choose 80 and hit OK. But there is a problem with this one, that if you see that this is going to select this white color also. So specifically when you are doing this kind of logo, there is another thing you can do to remove these colors. So let's deselect it by Control D, because we have white color inside this logo also. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to choose my eraser tool, click on it, and over here you will get these three erasers, out of which we are going to choose this magic eraser. And now after selecting that, you need to click over here, so it will remove this white color over here. And as you guys can see, we have one white color over here also, so we will delete that, and we will this also and delete this also, like this. Then we will select our selection tool. Now as always, we have each and every one on the separate layer. So for that, what we are gonna do, we are going to select our rectangle selection tool, and we will first of all separate this portion from our text. So I'll select this and I'll hit Ctrl X to cut it out. I'll create a new layer and I'll press Ctrl Shift V to paste in place. I'll double click on this layer and I'll name it as button, and I'll hit OK, and I'll hide this. And same thing I'm going to do with this alphabets. I'll select this E, I'll hit Ctrl X, I'll create a new layer and I'll press Ctrl Shift V to paste in place, and I'll name it as E. And I'm going to follow this same procedure for this B also. Create a new layer, call it as B. Again for this U also, select this, hit Ctrl X, new layer, Ctrl Shift V, call this as U, and hide this. Then for this one, as you guys can see, we cannot select with the help of rectangle selection tool. So I'll press L on my keyboard to select lasso tool, and I'll select this much portion over here like this, and I'll hit Ctrl X to cut it out. I'll create new layer, I'll press Ctrl Shift V to paste in place. I'll call it as T and I'll hit OK. Then again I'll press M on my keyboard to select my rectangle selection tool over again, and I'll select this much portion, hit Ctrl X, new layer, press Ctrl Shift V, let's call it as U. Let's call it as U and hide this. Then we will press L for lasso selection tool, and I am going to select this O, Ctrl X, new layer, press Ctrl Shift V, let's call it as O, and let's call this layer as Y. So as always, our each and every one is on the separate layer. So now we will save this file as a Photoshop document. Now we will go to the After Effects and we will try to animate this. Okay, so our Photoshop document is ready now. Now we will jump to the Adobe After Effects. We will create a new composition over here and we will name it as main animation, and width is 1920, height is 180, frame rate is 30, and duration I am going to choose 20-second long, and background color is white color, and simply hit OK. Then I'll go to choose grid and guide option and I'll hit on title section. Now I'll press Ctrl I on my keyboard to select my Photoshop file. As you guys can see, we have Photoshop file over here. I'll select this Photoshop file, import as. Instead of footage, I want composition, written layers and sizes, and make sure to uncheck this Photoshop sequence, so don't check it out, and simply hit import. And don't change anything over here, and simply hit OK, and double click to open this comp. Select all of them by hitting Ctrl A, select Ctrl C to copy them, go to main animation comp and simply hit Ctrl V. But as you guys can see, this whole logo is much more bigger than our what we call canvas. So for that, what we are gonna do, simply right click, new, and create one null object. Select all of them and we will make it parent with this null one. Okay, select this null one, press S for scaling option, and we will scale it at appropriate size like this, and then we will delete this null object. Okay, let's make this comp into fit. Now hit Ctrl A to select all of them, and we will bring this properly at the center like this. And if you think this button is quite a bit weird, so let's try to adjust properly at the center like this. Let's select all of them and adjust it properly at the center like this. Okay, now what we are gonna do, I'm going to select this alphabet. I'll press Y on my keyboard to select this tool. Shortcut key is Y, pen behind tool. With the help of this tool, we can adjust the anchor point of this one wherever we want. So by holding Control, I'll snap this at the bottom. Then I'll select this. By holding Control, I'll snap this anchor point at the bottom like this. Then we will select, adjust it like this. Then I'll go over here. By holding Control, I'll adjust it over here. And now this time I'm not going to hold Control because I have to adjust it over here like this. Okay, so our anchor point is done. Now we don't need to adjust the anchor point of this one. Now what we are going to do, we are going to animate this E first, and there is trick we can do to animate all of them. So let's see what is that. Let's select this E first and press S for scaling option. As you guys can see, we have scale over here, and now we are going to uncheck this link over here. Now let's create one keyframe over here. Go to around, let's say 20 frames, create another keyframe and go to 1 second and again create one keyframe. Okay, now I have just created keyframes. I haven't changed the value of them, so let's try to change the value. So let's go to the start. Initially I want this value, which is the Y value. You can make it 0, and at this point, instead of 19, I'm going to make it 22, or let's say 24 like this. So if you hit play now, we will get something like this. Now let's select both the keyframe, I mean all of them, and hit F9. So if you see, we will get something like this. Now this looks quite weird, so for that what we are going to do, we are going to go inside the graph editor. Let's go over here. Let's select this graph. By holding shift, move this handle over here, and we will get these two options and this handle over here. But if you don't want this type of structure, so what you can do, simply hit Ctrl Z to go back and make sure to check out this again. And now we are going to select this, so now we can only get one handle like this, and we will select this. By holding shift, I'm going to move this over here like this. Okay, and select this, move this handle over here and this handle over here. Okay, so let's select this last two keyframes and try to adjust it over here. So if I see, I'll get something like this. And now I'm going to copy this keyframe. I'll hit Ctrl C to copy them. I'll select all of them except this button, and I'll hit Ctrl V. So I'll get this thing for each and every alphabet. Okay, so this is how we will get this animation. And now we will try to animate this button. Okay, press S, and as you guys can see, the scale of this one is also 19, so we need to check, understand that. And now we will decrease the size of it, this one. Let's make this 2 maybe. Yeah, this looks good to me. Now select this button, press P for position, select this position, right click and choose separate dimensions. Okay, so now we have X position separate and Y position separate. Let's make this fit, and let's change the X position over here, and let's change the Y position over here. Okay, so adjust it like that. Okay, now let's go somewhere around, let's say 10 frames, or let's go to the start only, and we will create one keyframe at Y, and let's make the go to the 20 frame and one keyframe over here again. Now let's go to the start and let's go to the top, or let's move the Y position only, because the scale is so small that with the help of selection tool we cannot adjust it properly. So let's make this fit and let's move this over here. So we'll get something like this. Now after that, we will create one keyframe at X position like this. Let's go over here, and let's go over here, select this, and let's move this over here at U. Okay, and we will create one keyframe at Y again, go in the middle of that, and at this point I'm going to move the Y position over here. So if I see this, I'll get this, then this. Again, go somewhere around over here, I'll select this, and I'll move to this U over here, and one keyframe at Y position in middle of that. Again, I'll select this keyframe, I'll hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Okay, like this, and go again 20 frames forward, maybe like over here, and let's move this. uh, as you if you see, our two U's are complete, so let's go to around 3 seconds, and at this time I'm going to bring this to this B. Okay, and I'll create one keyframe at Y again, and in middle of that again I'll select this Y keyframe, I'll hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So if I see at this point, again we'll get this, then I'll go 20 frame forwards, and I'll move this toward this T, like this. Again, create one keyframe at Y position, and over here I'll select this keyframe, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and after T I want this one should jump on our O, so I'll move this over here. Again, one keyframe at Y, and in middle of that I'll select this keyframe, hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V, like this. And then after over here at this point I'll move this towards this Y. Again, one keyframe at Y position, and in middle of that I'll select this keyframe, hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Let's select these keyframes and let's move this a little bit over here, like this. And after this point I'll select this, I'll press S, and I'll create one keyframe, hit U, zoom in a little, zoom out a little bit, go somewhere around over here, and at this point I'm going to make this scale 90, which is the original scale, and I'll try to adjust the X position over here, and Y position of this one should be here, like this. So this is going to be my final position, and in at this point I'll select this, and I will try to change the Y position of this one over here, like this. Okay, and if you think this is quite fast, so you can select all these keyframes, and by holding Alt you can change the duration of it, like this. Okay, so if you see this animation, this looks quite weird, so we will try to adjust properly. But let's go over here, and now we will select this Y positions, and we will hit F9. Okay, so if you see this now, it still looks weird. So what we are gonna do, we need to adjust the graph editor of each and every one. So I'll go to the graph editor portion and watch this procedure carefully, then only your animation will looks quite good. Now I'll select this thing by holding shift. I'll move this handle over here and this handle over here. Right click and make sure that you are in edit speed graph. So it will look like that this button comes down a little bit slowly, and then when it gonna touch the ground it become faster. And select this handle by holding shift, move this handle over a little bit over here. Let's move this thing over here so you can see properly. Now after that, select this handle, hold shift, move this one over here and this one over here, this handle over here, select this and this handle over here. Okay, now after that we will select this by holding shift, this handle over here, this handle over here, select this one should be over here and this one should be over here. Again we will select this and we will move this handle over here, this handle over here, this one should be over here, select this one should be over here, like this. Now let's move this bar over here so we can see this properly. We will select this handle, again move this over here, move this over here, select this and adjust it like this. Okay, again go over here, select this handle, hold shift, move this handle over here, this handle over here, this handle over here, and this handle over here. Now select this by holding shift, move this over here, this over here, this one over here, and this one over here. And at this point again move this handle over here, this handle over here, adjust it like this, and again we will adjust it like this. So if I see, I'll get something like this. Now after that, what we are gonna do that, now our bounciness is done, but along with that I want it should start to rotate also. So what, for that what I'm gonna do, I'll select this, I'll press R for rotation, let's create one keyframe and hit U, go over here and let's make this one complete rotation. So if I see, I'll get something like this, but let's make this in minus rotation. So over here it should be -1, over here it should be -2, over here it should be -3, over here it should be -4, over here it should be -5, over here it should be -6, and over here it should be -7, like this. Now I'll select those rotation keyframes, I'll hit F9, I'll go to the graph editor, I'll select all of them by holding shift, I'll move this handle over here and I'll move this handle over here. So if you see, we will get this kind of rotation. And if you don't want that, then you can simply select them and you can simply hit F9 again to reduce those graph, because this looks also good. Okay, now after that we need to adjust this alphabets one by one. So at this point I want this sheet E should start animate, so I'll select this and I'll move this E over here with the help of open bracket. And then at this point I want this U should start animate, so I'll move this over here. At this point this U should start animate, so I'll move this over here. At this point this B, at this point this T, at this point this O, and at this point this Y. Okay, so if you see this now, we will get this and this. Now after that, if you see, this is just a plain animation, so I want a little bit bounciness over here. So for that what I'm gonna do, I'll, at this point when this touches the ground, I'll go few frame forward and I'll create one keyframe at Y position again, and in the middle of that I'll simply bring this a little bit upward, so I'll get this kind of little bit of bounciness. Or you can simply select those keyframes and by holding Alt you can adjust it like this. Okay, so if you hit play now, I'll get this and this. Okay, so now select all of them and enable this motion blur. So in this animation we will get a little bit of motion blur also. And now I'll select all of them and I'll press Ctrl Shift C to pre-compose this. I'll call it as YouTube logo animation, and I'll hit OK. I'll hit Ctrl D to duplicate it. I'll press S for scaling option and I'll unlink this, and instead of 100 I'm going to make it -100. I'll press P for position and I'll bring this downwards like this. Now it will act as a reflection. Then you can select this, you can press T for opacity, and let's make this opacity 25. And after that I'm going to select my rectangle selection tool and I'll create one mask like this, and then go inside this mask and increase the feathers like this. Okay, and let's move this, sorry, and try to move this over here. Okay, and boom, our logo animation is ready. I'll hit N over here and I'll press Ctrl Y to create one solid background, and I'll move this over here. And now if I hit play, as you guys can see, we will get this kind of rotation and easy bouncing animation inside of After Effects without using any third-party plugin. Okay, so here we are in Adobe Photoshop. I have this logo file over here. You can choose any logo if you want. It doesn't matter, but right now I'm going to choose this Fiverr logo. You can easily get this logo from google.com. All you need to do is simply bring this logo file in Photoshop. Okay, so first we will set up our proper project in After Effects and Photoshop. So here we are in Photoshop. Now I want to remove this white background over here. So for that, what we can do, I'll select this layer. I'll go to simply select option and I'll choose this color range options. So simply click on it, and with the help of this picker, I'm going to select this white color, and fuzziness I'm going to choose, let's say 80, and I'll simply hit OK. So as you guys can see, with the help of that, it will select all the white color, and I'll simply delete it because I don't want that white color, and simply hit Ctrl D to deselect this. Now as you guys can see, this is all in one object, but I want each and every alphabet on the separate layer so I can animate it separately. So for that, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna simply select my rectangle selection tool, and I'll try to select each and every one, and I'll separate it. So first I'll select this symbol, I'll select this much portion, and I'll hit Ctrl X to cut it out. And over here I'm going to create a new layer, and I'll press Ctrl Shift V to paste in place this, and double click over here, and let's call it as R. Capital R I'll type so I can understand this is proper capital R's, and I'll hit OK. Then I'll select this layer again, and I'll hide this one, and then I'm going to select this layer. I'll hit Ctrl X again, I'll create a new layer, and I'll press Ctrl Shift V, double click, and I'll name this as small r, and I'll hide this. Then select this again, select this much portion, hit Ctrl X, I'll create a new layer, I'll press Ctrl Shift V, and I'll call it as R again, and I'll hide this. So we will follow this procedure again. But if you see over here, with the help of rectangle selection tool, we cannot completely select this much portion. It will get a little bit trouble for us. So I'll hit Ctrl T, and this time I'm going to choose lasso tool. So shortcut key for lasso tool is L. So you can simply press L and you can select this, and make sure to select this layer, and we will select this E like this. So we will select this selection, and I'll hit Ctrl X, I'll create new layer, I'll press Ctrl Shift V, and I'll call this layer as E, hit OK, and we will hide this. Again I'll select my lasso tool, and I'll select this V like this. I'll hit Ctrl X, make sure to select this layer and hit Ctrl X, create a new layer, press Ctrl Shift V, we will call it as V, and we will hide this. And now what I'm gonna do, I need to select this eye properly. So for that, what we are gonna do, first we will separate this one. So let's do that. I'm going to select my lasso tool only, so I'll select this one, I'll select this layer, I'll hit Ctrl X, new layer, press Ctrl Shift V, and over here I'll name it as dot only because this is just a simple dot like this. And now I want to select this I and F separately. So for that, what we can do, I'm going to select my pen tool, and I'm going to select some selection from here to here like this. Let's move this over here. Okay, so with the help of pen tool we can select this. Let's hit Control Enter, we will hit Control X, select this and hit Control X to cut it out, create a new layer and press Control Shift V. So now as you guys can see, this I is on separate layer, so let's call it as I, and let's call it as F and hit OK. So now if you see, our each and every subject is properly on the separate layer. And now I'm going to save this file, press Ctrl Shift S and save whatever location you want. I'm going to save it as a Photoshop file and simply hit OK. So after creating this Photoshop document, now we have to animate this thing in Adobe After Effects. So let's go towards the After Effects. In After Effects, whenever we are going to open, we will get this kind of structure. So let's click on this new composition option. So it will show you some composition settings. We will name it as main animation comp, sorry, and width is 1920, height is 180, frame rate is 30, and duration is 20-second long, and background color is white color, and simply hit OK. Then we will go to choose grid and guide option, and we will hit on title section. Now after doing all of this stuff, we will get four major components over here. One is project window, one is our comp, then second one is this, I mean the third one is this timeline section, and then we have all this effect and presets, align character, etc, etc. Okay, so now we will start to animate our object properly. So now in project window, I'll simply double click, or you can simply press Ctrl I on your keyboard to import your Photoshop file. So as you guys can see, we have created this Photoshop file. I will select this Photoshop file, and if the Photoshop sequence is clicked on it like this, make sure to uncheck this because we don't want that, and import as footage. I'll choose composition, return layers and sizes, and simply hit import. So it will import this in over here, and you don't have to change anything over here, so simply hit OK. So as you guys can see, we have successfully imported our logo in After Effects. So simply double click on it, so you will get all of these Photoshop files are properly on the separate layer. So now what we are gonna do, I'll simply hit Ctrl A to select all of them. I'll press Ctrl C to copy them. I'll go to the main animation comp and I'll hit Ctrl V, and I'll simply adjust them like this over here. But now we have to resize the size of each and every one. So for that, what we are gonna do, I'll simply right click, I'll create new, and I'll create one null object, and I'll select all of them and I'll make it parent with this null one. I'll select this null one, I'll press S for scaling option, and I'll scale the size of this one properly. And with the help of down arrow keys and up arrow keys, I'll properly adjust it at the center. You can adjust it wherever you want, it doesn't matter. And after that, I'm going to delete this null object. And as you guys know that with the help of F4, we can simply toggle between these options like this, just to let you know. Okay, so now we will start to animate properly. Now what I'm gonna do, I want to animate this F first, so I'll simply select this F layer which is over here. It's on 8th one, so I'll bring this at the top and I'll hide all of them. Then I'll select this F layer and I'll hit Ctrl D. With the help of this, I'm going to change the color of this one to red, and I'll hide this and I'll lock this also. Now I'll press Ctrl R for rotation, not R for rotation, sorry, to for the ruler. And with the help of that, I'll bring one line over here and one line over here. This is gonna act like our what we call marker or something like this. Now we will select this F, we will press P for position, then we will simply right click and we will choose separate dimensions. And now I'll move the X position of this one over here, and Y position of this one should be over here. Okay, then let's create one keyframe at Y position, zoom in a little bit, go to around 10 frames, and by holding shift I'll move this over here, go to around 20 frames. Let's move this over here like this, a little bit over here, and then few frame forwards I'll bring this totally up to here, and this time make sure that the edge of it should touch this line. Okay, like this. So if you see this thing now, we will get something like this. After doing that, one thing you should do, that select those keyframe, right click on it, go to the keyframe interpolation. As you guys can see, make sure that this one should be in linear. Okay, so let's cancel this and now hit F9. And now let's see our animation. We will get something like this. Okay, let's play like this. Now let's go to the start, press S for scaling option. Let's create one keyframe, hit U, go over here and again create another keyframe, go to the start and let's make this 0. Now select those keyframe and hit F9 also like this. So let's make this fit. We'll get something like this. Now I'll press R for rotation. Let's create one keyframe, hit U again so we can see all the keyframes. Now there is one shortcut key. If you want to jump on the forward direction keyframe, simply hit K on your keyboard, so your time indicator will jump on forward keyframes. And if you want to jump at backwards, so simply hit J. So with the help of K, it will jump on forward direction. With the help of J, it will jump on backward directions. Okay, and U is a shortcut key to see the all the keyframes. So let's go over here. I'll create another keyframe at rotation, and at the start, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make it 90. Sorry, not 19 plus 90. Select those keyframe also and hit F9. So we will get something like this. And what we can do, let's make this 180, and let's see. So we'll get something like this. And now I'm going to select this keyframe and I'll move this over here. So if you see this, we will get something like this. Okay, and I'll go to this keyframe and I'll again create one keyframe which is 0 over here. So let's see. And at this point, instead of 0, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make it a little bit minus value. Let's say minus 20. So if I see this animation now, I'll get something like this. Okay, now let's select this and press P for position, so we can see only X and Y position over here, like this. Now at this point in middle of this, I'll create one keyframe at X position. Let's go few frame forwards, which is around 2 seconds. I'll enable this F. I'll select this and I'll move this over here by holding shift. Okay, like this. Okay, and if you want, then you can simply bring this a little bit downwards. So if you see this, I'll get something like this. Now what we are gonna do, let's delete this Y keyframe. We don't want that, and we will delete this layer also because we don't need that anymore. So if I see this, I'll get something like this. Now let's select those X position keyframes and hit F9, and let's see, like this. Now what we are gonna do, we will simply go to the graph editor and right click and make sure to you are in edit speed graph. By default you are in edit value graph, so it will look like this, but we don't want that, so we will go to the edit speed graph. Now we will select this keyframe by both of this keyframe, and by selecting that we will get this two handles over here. So by holding shift we will move one handle over here and one handle over here. So if you hit play, we will get something like this. So if I see this animation now, I'll get this and then this. Okay, so now what we are gonna do, we are going to animate each and every alphabet. So let's hide this F now and let's enable this. So now we will try to animate each and every one. So let's select all of them except this dot over here. So let's bring this dot at the top. We will animate that later. Let's select all of them, press P for position. We will hide this one over, we don't need to see that. And let's create one keyframe, then press S and create another keyframe. Now hit U and go to around 15 frames. We will create one keyframe at the position and one keyframe at the scale. Let's go to the start and again press R for rotation and create one keyframe. Hit U, go over here and create another keyframe. Now let's go to the start. So if you see each and every layer, I have created one keyframe at the position, one keyframe at the scale and one keyframe at the rotation, but I have just created a keyframes first. I haven't changed the value over yet. So now after creating keyframes on position, scale and rotation, I'll go to the start. I'll select these layers and I'll bring them downwards like this. Make sure that you are at the start. Okay, and then I'm going to change the rotation value to 90 and I'll change the value of scale to 0. So if I see, I'll get something like this. Now select all the keyframes and I'll hit F9 like this, and then we will go to the graph editor. I'll select this graph and by holding shift I'm going to move this layer over here. So if I see this, I'll get something like this. Okay, now after that, if you can see, we have this one dot over here. So for that, what I'm gonna do, okay, by default I've choose this luminous, we don't want that, so I'll make this normal. So now we have to animate this thing also. So for that, what I'm gonna do, I'll simply press P for position. I'll create one keyframe over here. I'll go to 10 frames and I'll bring this over here. I'll go to 20 frames. I'll select this first keyframe. I'll hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So I'll get something like this. And after that, I'm going to select those keyframe and I'll hit F9 I'll go to the graph editor. I'll select this graph. By holding shift, I'll move this handle over here and this handle over here. So if I see, we will get this kind of stuff. Okay, and if you want, then you can select this handle also. By holding shift, move this over here. By holding shift, move this over here. So we will get this kind of stuff. But this is all are animating at once. We want to animate them one by one. So for that, what we are gonna do, we will bring this F first. We will enable this F, and let's see. First this F, let's select all of them and press T for opacity, and let's make the opacity, let's say 20, but make sure to not to create any keyframes. We don't now need to animate opacity over here, and let's hit U two times, and now we have to animate it one by one. So at this point I want this R should start to animate. So I'll select this R layer, and with the help of open square bracket, I'll simply move this to over here, and I'll hit page down button. So with the help of page down button, our time indicator will move one frame forward. So with the help of page down button, it will move one frame forward, and with the help of page up button, it will move backwards. So I'll hit page down button like this, then I'll select this R, and with the help of open bracket, I'll move this over here. Let's select this, and with the help of open square bracket, we can move this over here. Again, hit page down button, select this, move this over here, move this over here, move this over here, and let's move this over here like this. Okay, so if you see, you will get something like this. And at this point, I'll select this dot over here, and I'll move this over here. I want this should start to animate over here. Okay, now let's select all of them, press T for opacity again, and let's make them opacity 100. Okay, hit U, and now if I see this, I'll get this kind of animation. Okay, but if you see over here, this F is not properly aligned with this I. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'll simply select this, I'll hit U, I'll go over here, and I'll bring my Y position over here like this. Let's move this a little bit upward, like this. Okay, so now if I see this animation, I'll get something like this. Now press F4, select all of them and enable the motion blur. So we will get some little bit of realism type in our animation. Okay, now right click new and create one null object. Select all of them and make it a parent with this null one. Okay, then press S for scaling option. Let's create one keyframe over here, and up to around 6 seconds, I'm gonna make it 90. So along with this animation, we will get a little bit of scaling animation for this logo also. And at this point, I'll hit N over here, then I'll press Ctrl Y to create one solid background. I'll name it as BG, and I'll hit OK, and I'll bring this downwards like this and hit U. So as you guys can see, with the help of this kind of technique, we can create simple logo animation in After Effects. Okay, so now in this video we are going to animate this Behance logo over here. Now initially I'm in Photoshop, and like my other tutorials, I have already divided this each and every alphabet on a separated layer. Even this portion over here is already on the separated layer like that, and I'll save this file. Then I'll go to the After Effects. I have already imported that logo file over here. So let's create a new composition, and we will call it as main animation, and width is 1920, height is 180, sorry, width is 1920, height 180, frame rate 30, and duration is 30. Background color is white, and simply hit OK. Then we will go to the choose grid and guide option and hit on title selection. Then let's open this logo file over here. We will select all of these layers, and we will simply hit Ctrl C to copy them. Go to the main animation and simply hit Ctrl V. Right click, create a new and create one null object. Select all of them, and let's make it a parent with this null one. Let's select this null one, press S for scaling option and scale it somewhere around like this. Then press P for position and we will bring this over here and bring this over here like that. And then we will delete this null object. And if you want, then you can now select individually, and with the help of arrow keys you can adjust the position of each and every one. Now in this one, what we are going to do, we are going to animate three alphabets out of all of them: this B, this E, and this E. Okay, so let's try to do that. Okay, so first we will start with this B. For this one, what we are gonna do, I'll select this pen tool over here, and now I don't want any stroke, so I'll delete the stroke. And for the color, I'm going to choose red color and simply hit OK. And then simply from here to here, make sure to hold shift. We will create one shape like this, and like this. Make sure that this line should end at this end over here like that. Now let's select this shape layer and we will try to bring this over here. And what we need to do actually over here, that we have to cover this line of B. So let's select this and let's bring this downwards with the help of arrow keys. Let's select this shape layer, let's move this over here, and we will also increase this stroke size like this. Okay, now after that we will select this shape layer, we will go to the add menu and we will choose round corners. Then go inside this round corners and increase the radius somewhere around like this. Okay, so yeah, this is done. And now what we need to do over here, we need to select this B, which is this. And now we will simply select this, we will press P for position and we will create one keyframe. Then we will go to around, let's say 20 frame, and we will create another keyframe. And let's go to the start and let's move this over here like this, and select those keyframe and hit F9. Go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift. I'm going to move this handle over here, so I'll get this kind of animation over here like this. Then I'm going to select my rectangle tool, and this time I don't want any stroke, so I'll delete the stroke. And over here I want fill, I'll choose any color for the fill, it doesn't matter. And now we are going to create one rectangle which is gonna cover this stroke width also and this B alphabet also. Okay, so this is gonna act like my mask. So let's select this shape layer, press Ctrl Alt Home, select the shape layer, hit enter, and let's call it as mask. Okay, then I'll move this over here at the B. I'll select this letter B, hit enter, and you can call it as B also. Press F4 and choose alpha mask like this. So we will get something like this. Now what we need to do, we need to select this stroke, and then we will go to the add menu and we will choose trim path. Let's go to the trim path and let's make this I think we need to make this 100 initially at the start. Create one keyframe 100 over here and one keyframe at the end 100 over here. Go to around, let's say 1.20 frames and make them 0 0. Okay, select those end keyframes and we will move them over here, let's say up to around 20 frames like this. So if I see this animation now, I'll get something like this. Okay, now let's select those keyframes and we will hit F9, and by holding Alt I'm going to change the duration to, let's say, up to around 1.20 frames, so I'll get this kind of animation. Okay, now let's move this stuff over here so you can see those keyframes properly, and again if I hit play I'll get this kind of animation. Okay, now whenever this line is gonna touch this bottom, I'm going to select this mask and B and I'll move them over here. So from this part it will start to animate, and if you want, then you can select this and you can little bit move over here until it's B total gonna reveal yourself. Let's select this B, hit U, and we will move this keyframe a little bit over here like that. So if I see this now, I'll get something like this. And you can do one thing, you can select this shape layer now and then change the color of this shape layer into black one like this. So if you see this now, we will get this kind of stuff. Now again what we need to do over here, we need to animate this N also. So let's select this N layer. and press P for position, create one keyframe, go few frame forward up to around 20 frame, create another keyframe, or let's go over here and create one keyframe, then go to the start and let's bring this totally downwards like this. Select those keyframe, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, hold shift and move this handle over here, so we'll get this animation. Okay, after that select your rectangle tool and again we will create one mask for this and also, and make sure that you are not gonna choose any stroke so we can see this properly, and let's try to increase the size of it like this. Okay, and let's select this, hit enter and let's call it as mask again, and we will bring it towards this end. Select this and choose alpha mask like this. Okay, and now we will select both of them and it should start from here like this. Okay, so we will get something like this. So this is for B and N. So now let's select all of these layers which is related to B, press Ctrl Shift C and we will call it as B, and we will hit OK and we will hide this. We will select these two layers, press Ctrl Shift C, we will call it as N, we will hide this and we will lock these layers. Okay, so this is for B and N. Now we have to animate this E and this E. To animate this stuff, what we are gonna do over here, I'll select this thing over here, press S for scaling option, unlink this and note down that initial scale is 40 by 40. So let's increase on x-axis this scale like this. Select this, press P for position, let's create one keyframe, go to around let's say 1 second and we will create another keyframe, go to the start and let's bring this thing over here, go over here and let's bring this thing downwards like this. Okay, so we will get something like this. Now along with that, what we are gonna do, we will select this E, we will press P for position, create one keyframe, go over here, create another keyframe and then go to the start, and now we will again select this E and by holding shift I'm going to move this over here like this. Okay, so if you see this animation now, we will get something like this. Now select those keyframes, hit F9 and if you see this animation, we will get something like this. Okay, if you want then you can increase the duration of this animation also like this. Now after that, what we need to do, we will hit page down button 2 times and we will select this. Let's create one keyframe, go few frame forward, let's bring this downwards like this, go few frame forward and let's move this over here, go few frame forwards and we will copy this first keyframe by hitting Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Okay, like this. Okay, so if you see this animation now, you will get something like this. Okay, make sure the distance between each and every keyframe should be same and select those keyframe, go to the graph editor, select each and every keyframe and hit F9 first like this. Let's go over here, let's select this handle, move this over here, select this one and move this over here, select this one, move this over here, select this one, move this over here like this, and select this one and let's move this over here, select this one and move this over here. So now if you see this thing, we will get something like this. Okay, and now what we need to do, we will select this E, we will press R for rotation and we will make it 180 like this. Okay, and press P for position, we will create one keyframe at this point, or let's say somewhere around over here. At this point I'll bring this downward like this. So if you see, we will get something like this. Now select this, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift, move this handle over here and this handle over here. So we'll get something like falling animation over here, and then somewhere around over here I'll bring this over here, and then after that I'll copy this, or you can copy the initial keyframe by hitting Ctrl C, Ctrl V like this. Okay, and now select those keyframe, go to the graph editor, select these last two keyframes and hit F9, select this middle one by holding shift. We'll move this handle over here and this handle over here. Select this, move this handle over here, select this and move this handle over here, like this. Okay, and after that let's select this, press R for rotation, create one keyframe, hit U, go over here and let's make this 0, like this. Okay, and along with that I'll go few frame forward. Again I'll create one keyframe, and in middle of that what I'm gonna do, I'll simply select this and I'll move this upward. Okay, we will get something like this. So if I see this animation now, I'll get first like this and then this. Then after that I'll select this shape layer, I'll create one keyframe at the position again, then I'll press S and I'll create another keyframe, then I'll hit U, then I'll go few frame forwards and I'll bring this over here at this original position, and then I'm going to make the scale 40 again, and then select those keyframe and hit F9, like this. And you can select this scaling animation and you can move them over here also, like this. So if you see this animation from the start, we will get this and then this. Okay, now as you guys can see, we have one E over here also. So now whenever this line gonna touch this, we need to animate this also. So I'll select this E and I'll bring this over here only, then I'll move this over here and I'll press P for position. I'll create one keyframe, or select this, right click and choose separate dimensions, then press R for rotation and create another keyframe. And initially let's make this 180 rotation. Oops, sorry, I have selected this C. We don't need to select this C, we need to select this E. So I'll move this over here, like this. I'll press P, right click, separate dimensions, create one keyframe, then press R for rotation, create another keyframes, and let's make this 180, like this, and hit U. Okay, and go somewhere around over here. I'll create one keyframe at each point again, and this time I'm going to make it 0 rotation. Okay, and let's select this and change the X position over here, or you can simply bring this with the help of your move tool and try to adjust the position with over here. And in middle of this I'll select this, and by holding shift I'm going to move this over here. Okay, and let's delete this X position. Now select this Y position, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, by holding shift move this handle over here and this handle over here. This should be over here and this should be over here, like this. Okay, and whenever it's gonna touch the ground, I'll go few frame forward, I'll create one keyframe, and in middle of that it should go upwards. So what we are gonna do, I'll bring this a little bit up again, like this. Okay, so if you see this now, we have this E animation over here also. Okay, so hit U, and now we will select all of this stuff and we will press Ctrl Shift C and I'll call it as EE, like this. Hit enter again and let's remove this extra E over here, like that. So if you see this now, we have 3 animation, one for B and N and one for E and E and N also. Now we will try to animate this remaining one. So I'll hide this which we have done already. Now the remaining one is this C and this A and H. For this one we are going to choose bouncing principle. So let's select this, press P for position, select this, right click and choose separate dimensions, and first of all let's create one keyframe at each, and let's select this and let's bring this at the top, or simply press Ctrl R to create one type of grid. I'll move this one over here and this one over here, and I'll bring one line from here also, like this. Okay, then I'll select this C. I'll bring this at the top at the initial state. By holding shift I'll move this over here, zoom in a little bit, go to around 20 frames, I'll bring this downwards over here like this. Create one keyframe at X position again. Go few frame forward. Let's move this over here, and in middle of that the Y position should be here like this. Delete this X keyframe over here. Then go few frame forward like over here. Move the Y position at this A. Create one keyframe over the Y position also in middle of that. Select this Y keyframe, hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V like this. Okay, and at last what we are gonna do, we will simply select this keyframe, hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and in middle of that again I'll select this Y keyframe and I'll hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So if you see this animation, we will get something like that. Let's select those keyframes, and by holding Alt I'm going to increase the duration like this. Now select this Y position keyframes and hit F9. Go to the graph editor, select this graph. By holding Shift I'll move this over here and this over here like this. Select this, hold Shift, adjust this handles like this, zoom in a little bit, and we will try to adjust these handles like this. Then select this handle again, holding Shift, move this over here and this over here. This should be over here. Select this and this should be over here. Select this, move this over here and this over here, this over here. Select this and move this over here. Okay, like this. And again after this we will go few frame forwards and we will create one keyframe at Y position, and in middle of that again we will bring this a little bit upward. Now after at this point our edge should start to animate, so I'll move this over here and I'll press Y on my keyboard to select my pen behind tool, and by holding Ctrl I'll snap this at the edge. Press S and unlink this, create one keyframe, go few frame forward, create another keyframe, go to the start and let's make this 0 like this, and select those keyframe and hit F9. Go to the graph editor, select this graph. By holding Shift I'll move this handles over here. Okay, we will select this keyframe by pressing Ctrl C. Also copy this keyframe, select this A, again choose your pen behind tool, and by holding Ctrl I'll snap this anchor point at the bottom. Go over here, select this, let's bring this downwards a little bit. Okay, then we will select this A and we will move this over here. Select this keyframes, hit Ctrl C, select this and hit Ctrl V. Okay, like this, and select all of these layers and let's call it as, press Ctrl Shift C and call it as HAC and hit OK like that. Okay, so now let's see our animation. We have this B over here, then we have this N, then I want this E should start animate, so I'll move this thing over here. It should start to animate from here, and I'll enable this HAC and then I'll move them over here. Okay, so if I say hit play, I'll get something like this. Now let's go inside this HAC. We have the C over here, but along with this animation I want it should rotate also, so let's go over here. I'll press R for rotation, create one keyframe. Let's go over here. Let's we need to rotate it on, let's say -1. Then over here it should be 0, then over here it should be 1. Okay, so we will get this animation. Okay, press F4, select all of them and enable this motion blur. Then we will hit go inside this and enable this motion blur. Go inside each and every layer and try to enable this motion blur. Okay, so if you see this thing now, we will get this kind of animation. Now press Ctrl A to select all of them, press Ctrl Shift C to copy them. I'll call it as animation and hit OK. Then we will go to the effect and presets panel and we will search for fill effect and double click to apply, and we are going to choose the Behance logo color over here. So if you see this thing now, we will get this kind of animation over here. Okay, so if you see over here, we have used bouncing principle to create this kind of logo reveal in After Effects. Okay, so now in this video we are going to create this Google logo animation. Now we are in Photoshop and I have already separated this Google logo, each and every individual on the separated layer like this. Now I'll go to the After Effects and I've already created, as always, one scene, and I have imported my Google logo over here. So I'll simply double click to open it. I'll hit Ctrl A to select all of them, hit Ctrl C to copy them. I'll go to the main animation and I'll hit Ctrl V to paste it. Then I'll right click new and I'm going to create one null object. I'll select all of them and I'll make it a parent with this null one. Then I'll select this null one, I'll press S for scaling option and I'll scale it somewhere around like this. Okay, then press P for position and I'll bring this over here, and this one should be over here like this. Okay, then I'll select this null object and I'll simply delete it. Okay, so first of all, what we need to do, we will animate this alphabets and then we will animate the extra stuff that we want for our animation. So I'll select all of them and I'll press P first of all for position. Then I'll select position, right click, choose separate dimensions, and I'm going to do this thing for each and every alphabet over here like this and like this. Okay, now select all of them and let's create one keyframe at the position and one keyframe at the Y position also, and zoom in a little bit, go to around, let's say, 1 second, and we will create one keyframe at X and one keyframe at Y. Go few frame forward, let's say to somewhere around 10 seconds, and we will create one keyframe at Y position only. Now in middle of that, I'm going to select this and I'll move this Y position a little bit upward, so we will get something like this. Okay, so if you see, as you guys know, that this is just a common animation. Now what we need to do over here, we need to go to the start. I'll select all of them, then I'll go to the align tab. I'll align it horizontally like this, and then I'll align it vertically like this. Okay, then I'll move the Y position somewhere around over here and X position should be somewhere around over here. Let's move the Y position over here. Okay, and after that, let's say somewhere around over here, I'll change the Y position to this one like this. Okay, now let's go to the start, and as you guys know that we have one search bar over here. What we need to do, simply go over here and type Y only, so it will automatically show only Y position keyframes. We don't want X position keyframes over here. Okay, so select those Y position keyframes and we will hit F9 first of all to easy these out, so we will get this kind of animation. Then after that, go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift. I'll move this handle over here and this handle over here, select this, move this handle over here, select this and move this handle over here. Go over here, zoom in a little bit, and now I'll select this one by holding shift, move this handle over here and move this handle over here, select this, move this handle should be over here, select this and shift this handle over here. Okay, so if you see this animation now, I'll get something like this. Now after that, what we need to do, simply go over here and press R for rotation, create one keyframe, hit U so we can see all the keyframes, go to around 1 second and we will make it one complete rotation. So now if I see, I'll get something like this. Also go to the start, press S for scaling option, let's create one keyframe, zoom in a little bit, go to around 5 seconds and create another keyframe, go to the start and let's make this 0 and select those keyframe and hit F9 like this. Okay, and hit U, so we will reveal all these keyframes. Now this is randomly, so I mean this is all at once. I want a random stuff. So what I'm gonna do, I'll simply select this O and I'll move this a little bit over here and this one over here. So basically I'm gonna arrange them one by one like this, and this one should be like this. So I'll get this kind of animation like this. So this is for logo. Now we will try to animate some other stuff related to this logo. So simply select all of this, press Ctrl Shift C, and let's call it as Google Logo Animation. Okay, so this is for this animation. Okay, so after this text animation of this logo, now we will add some extra stuff over here. So for that I'm going to choose my ellipse tool, and for the color let's choose black color initially. And as you guys know though, this strings starting from, let's say, somewhere around at this point. So let's go over here and we will create one small ellipse. Press Ctrl Alt Home to align that anchor point to the center. Go to the align tab, align it horizontally like this. Okay, let's select this and press Y on your keyboard to select your pen behind tool, and by holding Ctrl I'll snap this anchor point at the bottom. Now we will choose our rectangle tool and we will create one rectangle like this. Let's try to adjust the shape somewhere around like this. Then press Ctrl Alt Home, go to the align tab, align it horizontally like this, and let's try to move this over here. Press Y on your keyboard and by holding Ctrl I'll snap this over here. Okay, and now I'm going to create one triangle. So for that what we need to do, simply select your pen tool and by holding shift let's create one over here, one over here, one over here, and one over here. So this is how you can create this triangle. Then let's select this, press Y, and let's move this anchor point over here. Press V and let's move this somewhere around like this. Okay, now after that I'll select this thing, I'll hit Ctrl D and I'll bring this at the top, and by holding shift I'll again move this thing over here like this. Okay, and now what we need to do, I'll select this and a rectangle and I'll make it apparent with this fourth layer, which is this layer. I'll select this layer and I'll make it apparent with this third one, which is this rectangle. Then I'll select this ellipse and I'll make it apparent with this second layer, which is the triangle. Okay, so if I rotate this with the help of W key, we can enable our rotation tool. If I rotate that, everyone is gonna rotate. Okay, so this is this, and let's select the shape layer and press P for position. Let's create one keyframe and zoom in a little bit, go to around, let's say, 1 second, and create another keyframe. Go to the start and let's move this over here and select those keyframe and hit F9 like this. Let's hide this Google logo over here. Let's go over here, select this, and we will create another keyframe, and let's go to the start and we will move this over here like this. But if you see, we will get this glitch. So to get rid of it, select those keyframes, hit right click, keyframe interpolation. Instead of auto bezier, I'm going to choose linear like this. We'll get something like this. By holding alt, I'm going to increase the duration to 2 seconds like this. Okay, now after that what we can do, I'll select this shape layer, which is rectangle, and if I press R on my keyboard and if I rotate it, as you guys can see, we will get this rotation over here. So let's go to the start and let's make this +10 rotation and create one keyframe. Select this triangle which is over here, press R, also make +10. Select this one, this ellipse, and if you rotate it you can do that also. Let's make it 10. Okay, so rotation of each and every one is 10. So let's create one keyframe each. Go over here and at this point I'm going to make it -10. This one should be also -10. This one should be also -10. Okay, and at this point I'm going to make it, let's say, 5, 5 and 5 to create keyframe and go few frame forward, and let's make this 0. Okay, like this. And also select those keyframe and hit F9, and if you hit play, we will get something like this. Okay, but what we need to do over here, let's see. Let's select these keyframes, not this one but this one, and we will move them over here like this. Okay, now after that, let's go over here, and at this point I'm going to select this keyframe and I'll hit or you can simply select those keyframes and you can move them over here also like this. Okay, so if you see this animation, we will get something like this. Okay, so this is how you can do this. Let's try to adjust it again, and this one should be properly in the middle. Okay, and after that, what we need to do, I select these keyframes, zoom in a little bit, let's move them over here. I'll select this one and let's move them over here. So now we will get this kind of random effect over here. Now let's do another thing. Now let's select this shape, I'll press S and I'll unlink this. Let's create one keyframe, zoom in a little bit, and let's decrease the size of it like this. Select those keyframe and hit F9. Okay, now select all of these layers and press P for position like this, and let's go over here and select this keyframe, hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V like this. Okay, yeah, now let's select those keyframe, go to the go to the graph editor and select this. By holding shift, move this handle over here and this handle over here, this handle over here and this handle over here like this. Okay, and select all of this, press P for position, create one keyframe, go over here, let's select this rectangle, bring this downward, select this, bring this downward, select this and bring this downward like this. And at this point, let's say up to 4 seconds, I'm going to select this rectangle, I'll move this over here, select this triangle, move this over here, and select this ellipse, move this over here like this. And if you think this is quite slow, so simply select all of them, and by holding alt you can adjust the duration like this, and select those keyframe and hit F9 like this. Let's go to the graph, select this and move this handle over here like this. Okay, and select this, and by holding shift, select this and move this handle over here, select this and move this handle over here like this. So if I see this animation from the start, I'll get this and then this. Okay, and after that, go to around 4 seconds, I'll select this one, press V and move this over here, select this one, move this over here, select this one and move this over here. Okay, and select this keyframes, go to the graph editor, select this and hit F9, select this, by holding shift, move this handle over here, select this and move this handle over here like this. Okay, and again what we need to do, simply select this, move this over here, select this, move this over here, select this and move this over here. So if I see, I'll get this and then this. And if you want, then you can increase the height also of each and every one like this. This one should be over here. Okay, and now I'll enable my this animation to pick up the color. So I'll select this one, let's go to the fill option and I'm going to choose this color for this, hit OK, select this one, go to the fill option, I'm going to choose this for this, select this one, go to the fill option, I'm going to choose this yellow color, hit OK, select this, go to the fill option, and I'm going to choose this green color to this ellipse. Okay, and let's hide this logo animation. Okay, so first I'll get this. Then at this point, whenever they are going to touch the ground, I'll select all of them and I'll press Ctrl Shift C and I'll call it as shapes and I'll hit OK. Okay, at this point I'm going to select this and I'll press Ctrl Shift or hit Ctrl D also, and right click, go to the time, and I'm going to click on time freeze frame like this and select this, and by holding Alt I'll close it. Zoom in a little bit and let's move this over here. Trim this by holding Alt, close bracket. And now I'm going to select this shape layer, go to the effect and presets panel, and I'm going to search for pixel poly effect, which is this one, CC pixel poly, and double click to apply like this. And let's select this and let's move to the start. Let's move this layer over here and over here like this. But after applying this, as you guys can see, we are getting this kind of effect. So to make it much more cooler, let's select this and increase the force a little bit like this. Let's make it 350, and gravity, let's make it 0.5. Let's move this over here. Yeah, and for center I'm going to move this over here so it will look a little bit plastic. Okay, and then grid spacing we are going to decrease it to, let's say, 8 like this. Direction randomness should be 100 and speed randomness should be 100 like this. Yeah, and at this point I'm going to enable my Google logo animation and I'll move this over here so they should start from here. So if I play this animation, I'll get this and then this, and then I'll press Ctrl Y to create a solid background and I'll bring this downwards like this, and then I'll hit N on my keyboard like this. So we will get this kind of animation. Okay, from so now onwards we are going to create some creative animations. Now first of all we are going to animate this Yahoo logo. Okay, so I have this logo file in Photoshop, and as always I have divided each and every alphabet on the separate layer, and I'll simply save this as my Photoshop file. Then I'll go to the After Effects, and as always I'm going to create a new composition and I'm going to name it as main animation, and width is 1920, height is 180, frame rate is 30, and duration is 30 seconds long, and background color is complete white, and simply hit OK. Then we will go to choose grid and guide option and hit on title section. Now I'll press Ctrl I on my keyboard to import my Photoshop file. I will select this file. I'll go to import footage, composition, written layers and sizes, and we will simply hit import and we will hit OK. Then we will double click to open it. We will hit Ctrl A to select all of them, Ctrl C to copy them, go to the main animation and simply hit Ctrl V to paste it. Then right click, new, and we will create one null object. Select all of them and make it parent with this null like this. Select this null, press S for scaling option and scale it somewhere around like this. Press P for position and let's bring this over here and bring this over here like that. And if you're good with this positioning, then that's okay, and then we can delete this null object. Okay, now I'll select this layer over here and I'll bring this at the top, hit enter, and let's call this as Y. We will name each and every layer with their respective name like this, and sorry, select this, hit enter, let's call it as H, and bring this at the third position. This should be O. Sorry, select this, hit enter, let's call it as O. O. Okay, so yep, this is how we can name each and every one. Now first of all, I'm going to focus on this Y, so I'll select all of them and I'll hide them like this. And for the Y, what we are going to do, I'm going to select my ellipse tool, and for the fill I'm going to choose this color only, and by holding shift I'm going to create one ellipse like this. Okay, then press Ctrl Alt Home to align that anchor point to the center. Go to the align tab, align it horizontally and then align it vertically like this. Okay, this looks good. Now let's select the shape layer, press P for position. Let's create one keyframe like this, and we will bring this totally downwards like that. Go to around 20 frames and let's bring this totally upwards like this, and then go few frame forward somewhere around over here and align vertically at the center. So if you hit play, we will get something like this. Now let's select those keyframes and we will hit F9. We'll go to the graph editor, we will select this graph. By holding shift I'll move this handle over here and move this handle over here, move this handle over here and move this handle over here like this. Okay, so we'll get something like this. But if you see over here, we are getting some trouble at this point. To get rid of it, what we can do, we will simply select those keyframe, right click, keyframe interpolation. Instead of auto bezier, I'm going to choose linear and simply hit OK. So if I hit play, I'll get something like this. Okay, now at this point, let's go few frame forward, again create one keyframe and let's go in the middle of it. Let's bring this over here, and in middle of it, with the help of down and up arrow keys, I'll move this a little bit upward, so I'll get a little bit of bounciness like this. Okay, now at this point what we are gonna do, we will simply right click, new, and we will create one null object. Select the shape layer and make it a parent with this null 2. Select this null 2, press R for rotation. Let's create one keyframe, go few frame forwards, let's say up to around 3 seconds, and let's make this rotation -2 like that, but as you guys can see, we cannot see anything, so it's okay. Let's select those keyframe and we will hit F9. We will go to the graph editor, we will select this graph, and by holding shift we'll move this handle over here and move this handle over here like that. So make sure to make your graph like this. Now after that, what we are gonna do is we will go to the last keyframe of the shape and we will simply hit page down button to move this time indicator one frame forward, and we will create one keyframe at the position. And let's go to somewhere around over last keyframe, and we will select the shape layer and we will change the position of this one to this Y1. Okay, so if I see this now, I'll get something like this. Let's select those last keyframe and we will bring them a little bit backward like this. So if I hit play, I'll get this and then this. Now what we are gonna do at this point, what I'm gonna do, I'll select this Y, press P for position, select this position, right click and choose separate dimensions, and with the help of open bracket I'll move this layer over here. Let's create one keyframe at the X position, one keyframe at the Y position. For scaling, create one keyframe, and for rotation create one keyframe and hit U and go somewhere around over here like this, and again create another keyframes. Now let's go to the start. I'll bring this thing over here so you can see this properly. Let's select this, press V, and at the start I'm going to move this over here and let's scale it somewhere around like this, so it should be properly in the ellipse, and go somewhere around over here. Select this and let's bring this over here like that. Okay, let's go over here, and at this point I'm going to make it one complete rotation, so we will get something like this. Or let's make, instead of one, let's make this -2 like that, so we'll get this kind of stuff. But this looks weird, so what we are gonna do, and our animation should also be a little bit faster, so I'm gonna select those keyframes and by holding Alt I'm going to reduce the duration somewhere around over here like this. After that we will select the Y position keyframes and we will hit F9. Then we will go to the graph editor, zoom in, select this by holding shift, move this handle over here and this handle over here. This handle should be here, select this, and this handle should be here, like that. Okay, and after that our rotation should be something like this only. And at this point I'm going to select this shape layer. I'll press alt close bracket like this. So if you see this animation from the start, first I'll get this, then I'll get this. Okay, so let's make this fit like this. Okay, and if you think the y rotation is too much, so you can, let's make this -1 only, so we'll get something like this. And or let's say -2 only, because this looks a little bit cooler, like this. And at this point let's go few frame forward again, and we will create one keyframe at y, and in middle of that let's bring this a little bit upward again. Okay, and select those keyframe, go to the graph editor, select those last keyframes and hit F9, zoom in a little bit, move this, sorry, select this and move this handle over here and this handle over here. This handle should be over here and this handle should be over here. Okay, so if you see this, our Y animation will look like this. Okay, so this is for Y. Now we will focus on this A and H like this. Let's select this. First of all, select all of these three layers. First of all, press Ctrl Shift C and I'll call it as Y and simply hit OK like this. Yeah. Then after that we will need to animate this H and A. For that, what we are gonna do, we will simply select this H, press P, create one keyframe, zoom in a little bit, go to around 20 frames and create another keyframe, go to the start and let's bring this H at the top like this, and select those keyframe and hit F9 like this, and go few frame forwards and again create another keyframe, and in middle of that we will bring this upward, so we will get this bouncy effect like this. Or instead of that, what we can do, we will select this last keyframe and by holding alt we will move this a little bit over here. Okay, and at this point let's move this over here and bring this over here like this. Now select those keyframes and hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, hold shift, move this handle over here and this handle over here like this, and select this, move this handle over here and this handle over here, and let's select this handle over here and this should be over here. Okay, so our graph should be like this. Or you can hide this Y also, because we need to focus on this HNA at this point specifically. Okay, let's select this H, and at this point I'm going to press R for rotation, create one keyframe, hit U, go over here and let's make this one complete rotation. Select those keyframe and hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, hold shift, move this handle over here and this handle over here. So if you hit play, we will get something like this. And if you think this is quite fast, so you can simply select this by holding alt, you can increase the duration like this. Okay, so after doing all these adjustments, now we have to animate this A. For this A, we are going to do simple animation. We will simply select this A and we will move this over here, then press P, create one keyframe, go few frame forward, create another keyframe, go to the start and let's bring this A over here. Now select this position, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, hold shift and move this handle over here. So we will get something like this. Okay, now we select this rectangle and we will create one rectangle like this and move this over here. Select this A, press F4 and choose alpha mask. Okay, so if you see, we will get this edge and then this A. After that, we need to select all of them, press Ctrl Shift C and let's call it as H and A and simply hit OK and we will hide this. Then we need to animate this O and this O also. So what we can do over here, we will first animate this O. So press P for position, create one keyframe, but before that let's select this, right click and choose separate dimensions, and simply create one keyframe at X and one keyframe at Y, like this, and go somewhere around over here. We will create again one keyframe, go over here, we will create another keyframes. Now initially the X position, press V and simply move this over here like this, and simply select these keyframes, both of them, and press Ctrl C, go over here and press Ctrl V. So we'll get something like this. Now let's go to the start, select this, and we will move this upward. So we'll get this and this. Now after that, in middle of that, I'll select this and I'll bring the Y position over here like this, over here. Now let's select all of them and hit F9. Okay, after that we will select the Y position, we will go to the graph editor. Let's do one thing, select this X position and we don't need F9 over here, so simply hit hold Control and click on it like this. Okay, select this Y position, go to the graph, select this by holding shift, we'll move this handle over here and this handle over here. Select this, move this one over here and this one over here, zoom in a little bit, move this handle over here, select this and move this handle over here like this. Okay, now let's select this much portion and by holding Alt I'll increase the duration like this. Now at this point I want this O should drop from this O, so I'll select this and I'll move this over here. Let's press P for creating one keyframe, go few frame forward and create another keyframe, go to the start and simply bring this O over here and select those keyframe and hit F9. Go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift, move this handle over here and this handle over here, and at this point let's move this over here and go few frame forward, create another keyframe, and at this point I'm gonna move this upward, so you'll get a little bit bounce over here. Let's select this, hold shift or hold Alt and adjust it like this. Select this, hit page down button 2 times, move this upward, hit page down button 2 times, select this keyframe, hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V, so we'll get something like this. Select those keyframe and hit F9 to easily use those keyframes. Okay, so if I see this animation, I'll get something like this. Select both of them and press Ctrl Shift C and let's call it as O, like that. Now we have this thing over here. For this one we can do simple animation like press P, create one keyframe, press R, create one keyframe, and press S, create one keyframe. Hit U, go to the 10 frames or let's say 20 frames, create one keyframes, and in middle of that, which means around 10 frames, I'll select this, move this over here, go over here and bring this downwards, and go over here, create one scaling keyframe, go to the start and let's make this 0. So we'll get something like this. Now at this point, rotation I'm going to choose 1 like this. Select those position keyframe, hit F9, go to the graph, select this, hold shift, adjust this graph like this as we always do, like this, and select this rotation keyframe, hit F9, go to the graph, select this, hold shift, move this handle over here and select this, move this handle over here like this. Or if you look too fast, so you can adjust this like this. Okay, so in this one, first I want this Y animation should appear, so I'll select all of them and I'll bring them over here. Let's select this. I want this Y animation should do its work first. Then at this point I want this O should start to animate. After that O, I want this edge should start to animate, and then this thing should start to animate. So if I see this thing now, I will get this and then this. Okay, let's select all of them, press Ctrl Shift C. I'll call it as Logo Animation and hit OK. Sorry, press S for scaling option and I'll scale it a little bit, but we'll get something like this. Okay, or you can adjust the size initially also, and press Ctrl Y to create solid background and move this over here like this. Now make sure select all of them, and inside them enable their motion blurs like this. Okay, so if you see this thing now, we will get something like this. Okay, so this is how you can create Yahoo logo animation. Okay, so now in this video we are going to create this glitchy logo reveal animation. Let's create a new composition. We will call it as main animation. Width is 1920, height is 180, frame rate is 30, and duration is also 30 seconds long, and background color is black color, and we will simply hit OK. Then we will go to choose grid and guide option, and we will hit on title section. Then I have this logo file over here. I'll simply select this logo file and I'll move this over here. I'll press S for scaling option and I'll scale it somewhere around like this. Okay, now after that we need to create one masking animation on this logo. So for that, what we are gonna do, we can either choose any shape over here, but this time I'm going to choose this star, and by holding shift I'm going to create one star over here. Let's select this star, press Ctrl Alt Home to align that anchor point to the center. Go to the align tab, align it horizontally and then align it vertically. Now go to the effect and presets panel, and we are going to apply turbulence displace effect on that star. So with the help of that, we will get some weird shape over here. Let's increase the amount somewhere around like this. Also decrease the size somewhere, let's say 50, and press S for scaling option, and initial scale should be 0. And let's create one keyframe at the start. So I'll move this keyframe over here and go to around 2 or let's say 3 seconds, and we will cover up this entire logo. So increase the scale according to that like this, so it should cover entire logo. Okay, press F4, select this logo and choose alpha mask. So if I see this animation now, I'll get this kind of logo reveal like this. Now let's select this both the things and press Ctrl Shift C to pre-compose this logo. I'll call it as logo animation and hit OK. Then I'm gonna press Ctrl Y on my keyboard to create one solid background. I'll call it as BG, and I'll choose black color for it and hit OK and hit OK, and I'll bring this downwards and I'll lock this layer. Then I'll press Ctrl Y again to create solid background and I'll hit OK. Then I'll go to the effect and presets panel, and I'm going to apply turbulence displace, not turbulence displace, sorry, but ramp. I'll type in the search bar, so I'll get this gradient ramp. Simply double click to apply this, and instead of linear ramp I'm going to choose radial, and I'll bring this one point over here, zoom out and bring this point over here. Now select this solid, press Ctrl Shift C to pre-compose it. I'll call it as ramp, or let's call it as map, and move all attributes into the new composition and simply hit OK. Double click to open this composition, right click new and create one adjustment layer. Okay, then go to the effect and presets panel and we will search for mosaic effect and simply double click to apply. So with the help of that, we will create something like this blocks, and let's make this 50 by 50, let's say, so we will get something like this, or let's make this 20 by 20, so we will get something like this. Okay, Then let's go to the main animation comp and we will hide this map over here. Select this logo animation, go to the effect and presets panel, and we are going to apply time displacement effect. So in After Effects, most of the time whenever we are going to create glitchy logo animation, we are going to choose this technique, where one we will create this map and one where we are going to choose time displacement effect to run that glitchy look. So by after applying this, if you see, we are still not getting anything because we need to set one map for this. So in time displacement layer, instead of logo 2, I'm going to choose this map over here, and let's choose quad resolution because glitchy animation takes a little bit time to load. Now if you see over here, as you guys can see, we will get something like this effect over here. Okay, so let's go inside this map, let's select this, and if you swap these colors over here, let's make this full quad resolution like this. Okay, and let's select this, go inside this logo animation, select this and hit U. Let's select those keyframes, zoom in a little bit, and let's move this to 1 seconds. Now we will run this animation, so we will get something like this. Okay, so we will get something like this. Now let's go inside this logo animation, we will select this shape layer, we will go to the effect and presets panel, and we will search for blur. Let's say which blur we should apply. Let's choose Gaussian blur and increase the blurriness a little bit like this. Okay, so if you see over here, we are getting some displacement, or it's okay if you are not gonna apply this, it's still cool. And after that, if right now I have, as you guys can see, I have applied this ramp effect, but if you want, then you can apply another black solid layer over here, and you can apply fractal noise effect over here. Simply double click to apply, and let's choose turbulence smooth and choose block over here. And if you see this now, as you guys can see, we are getting this kind of results. So I would suggest we should go with this because this looks more cooler than this. So let's delete all this adjustment and stuff. We will choose fractal noise effect, and we will choose this effect over here. Now over here, for the complexity, I'm going to choose 4, or let's say 2 only, because we don't want much more. And contrast, I'm going to increase it a little bit. Okay, so if I see this animation now, I'll get this kind of stuff. But if you can see this glitchy look, it looks quite steady. I want some animation over here. So inside this map, what we are gonna do, I'm going to select this, I'll alt click on this evolution tab, and I'm going to apply time into, let's say, 300 maybe. So we will get this kind of thing over here. So if you see this thing now over here, we will get something like this. Okay, so we are successfully achieved this reveal over here, but we want to create some glitch stuff over here. So let's select both of these layers, and I'll press Ctrl Shift C, and I'll call it as logo, and only logo. And now I'll hit Ctrl D up to 5 times, so I need 5 copies. I'll select the last one, I'll go to the effect and presets panel, and I'll search for fill effect and double click to apply, and I'm going to choose red color for this. Go to the 4th one, I'll apply fill effect, I'm going to apply green color for this. Select this 3rd one, apply fill effect, I'm going to apply blue color for this. And select the 2nd one and apply find edge effect on him, find edge effect, and let's invert this. So now what we are gonna do, I'll hit page down button 2 times, I'll select this 4th layer, and I'll move this over here. Again 2 times, select this, move this over here. Again 2 times, select this, move this over here. And again 2 times, select this and move this over here. So if you see this now, we will get something like this. After that, let's select this last 3 layers, and for the blending mode, I'm going to choose green one over here. So as you guys can see, we will get something like this. Okay, and if you want, then you can select this one and you can move this a little bit later also, so we will get some extra stuff. If you see this in full resolution, obviously it will take a little bit time to load, like this. And if you want, then you can move this a little bit later also. So as you guys can see, we are getting something like this. Let's choose see this in third resolution. Let's see if you make this full, you'll get this kind of results like this. Okay, then let's go inside this and select this, go inside this logo also. And now what we are gonna do inside this, where we have reveal and logo, we will right click, we will create new, and we will create one null object. I'm going to select both of these layers and I'll make it apparent with this null one. Let's select this null one, press P for position. I'll alt click on the stopwatch and I'm going to apply wiggle expression on it, and I'm going to apply 3,3 over here. So along with that, we will get this kind of wiggly animation. And if you see this thing in now your main animation comp, let's choose quarter resolution again. Along with that logo, we will get this kind of animation also. Let's see this in half resolution like this. Okay, so either you can do inside this logo animation thing, but the fact that if you see over here in, let's choose quarter resolution, as you guys can see, we will get this kind of look over here. So to instead of doing this stuff, null object stuff inside this logo animation, what we can do over here is we can simply right click and new null object over here. Let's bring this at the top, let's select all of them and let's make it apparent with this null one, null 2. Select this null 2, press P for position, alt click on the stopwatch, apply wiggle expression on it. Let's type 5, not 5 but 3,3 over here. So we will get that wiggle animation for this one. Okay, now after that, what we can do over here, let's select both all these layers and press Ctrl Shift C, and I'll call it as final logo and hit OK like this. Now after that, I'm going to select this logo and I'll hit Ctrl D, I'll press S, unlink this and I'll make it -100 like this, and press P for position, and let's bring this downwards like this. Now we have to create a certain kind of reflection for this, so let's hide all of them. Okay, now press Ctrl Y on your keyboard to create another what we call fractal noise, maybe like this, and simply hit OK. And let's apply fractal noise effect on it like this. And this time what we can do over here, we will increase the contrast and we will decrease the brightness somewhere around like this. Then we will go inside the transform, uniform scaling, and we will increase the width and we will decrease the height somewhere around like this. Now select this fractal noise and I'll press Ctrl Shift C and I'll call it as floor and hit OK, and we will hide this. Okay, so this is gonna be my reflection layer. So on this layer I'll apply one effect called compound blur. So we will simply apply that effect and we are going to choose that floor layer over here like this. So now if you see this thing, we will get this kind of animation. Okay, like this. Now after that, what we can do, we will simply right click, we will create new and we will create one null object, and we will select all of these layers and we will make it apparent with this null 3. Now this null 3 should be act like our camera. So now what we are gonna do, I'll press S to create one keyframe, then I'll press R for to create another keyframe, and let's hit U again and let's go somewhere around over here, and at this point I'm going to create another keyframe again and go over here. Let's see, bring those keyframes over here so we can see this properly. I'm going to increase the scale of this and I'm going to rotate it on, let's say 90 degree, -90 degree. Let's select those keyframes and we'll move this over here so we can see this animation from this angle. Okay, if you see this in full resolution, we will get a proper look for our animation like this. Okay, so let's make this quarter resolution first like this. Okay, now right click new and we will create one adjustment layer and we will apply CC lens effect on it like this. Okay, and initially I'm going to increase this size up to somewhere around like this. Okay, let's go to the start and create one keyframe at the size and hit U, and at last I'm going to increase the size again somewhere around like this. So okay, so if you hit play now, we will get something like this, and select the last keyframes and hit F9. Okay, and right click new and again we will create one adjustment layer and we will apply glow effect on it. So we will get this glow. Let's increase the glow radius to, let's say, 80 and glow threshold to 95 like this. And if you see in full resolution, we will get something like this. Okay, so this is how you can create glitchy logo reveal animations inside of After Effects. So in this video we are going to animate this Google logo. Now I have already created my Photoshop file for this animation. Like my previous videos that we do, that we separate each and every alphabet on separate layer. As you guys can see, we have each and every individual on separate layers. So I'll save this file and then I'll simply jump to the Adobe After Effects and I'll create a new composition. I'll call it as name animation, and width is 1920, height is 180, frame rate is 30, and duration we are going to choose, let's say, up to 30 seconds only, and background color is white color, and we will simply hit OK. Then we'll go to choose grid and guide option and we will hit on title selection. So we will get this kind of grid. Now after that, I have already imported my logo. If you are watching this course till now, then you should know how to import Photoshop files in After Effects. Then I'll simply double click to open this comp. As you guys can see, we have this Photoshop layers over here. I'll simply hit Ctrl A to select all of them and I'll hit Ctrl C to copy them. Then I'll go to main animation and I'll simply hit Ctrl V to paste it. Now right click new and I'll create one null object. I'll select all of them and I'm going to make it parent with this null object like this. Now select this null object, press S for scaling option and we will scale it down somewhere around like this, and then we will select this and we will hit delete. Now I'll hit Ctrl A to again select all of them and I'll adjust this logo properly at the center somewhere around like this. Okay, now I'm going to enable my ellipse tool, and for the color I'm going to choose, let's say, green color for now because we are going to create simple ellipse. So by holding shift I'm going to create one ellipse and then I'll press Ctrl Alt Home to align that anchor point to the center, then press V and we will bring this over here and let's bring this layer downwards. Now make sure that your G should be inside this ellipse and select this shape layer, press Ctrl Alt Home to align that anchor point to the center like this. Press S for scaling option and let's scale the size of it somewhere around like this. So make sure that your this red O should not touch this ellipse like this. Yup, as you guys can see, our G is properly in the middle of that and it's not gonna touch this over here like this. So let's make this fit again. Yeah, now let's select the shape layer. Make sure to press Ctrl Alt Home to align that anchor point to the center. Then we will go to the Align tab and over here you will get this option called Align Horizontally. So simply click on it. So now our object is properly at the center, and then I'll select the shape layer. I'll hit enter and I'll call it as white and I'll hit OK like this. Now I'm going to go in my fill option and I'll choose white color for this. Okay, and simply hit OK, and let's hide this alphabets now. We don't need to animate that now, but we will animate that later. Okay, now select the shape layer, press S for scaling option. Let's create one keyframe at the start and go to around 1.10 frames and we will create another keyframe. Now let's go to the start and let's make this 0 again. Now select those keyframes and hit F9 and we will go to our graph editor. I'll select this graph, and by holding shift I'm going to move this handle over here and this handle over here, like this. As you guys can see, we cannot see anything because the reason is that white and white, etc. And so what we are gonna do, I'm going to select this layer. I'll go to my effect and presets panel, and I'll search for drop shadow effect on it, and simply double click to apply. So if you can see over here, we will get a little bit edge like this, which is the shadow. And softness I'm going to choose 60%, and opacity I'm going to choose 15. So we'll get something like this. And if you go to the start and if you hit play, we will get something like this. Now let's go to around 20 frames, and I'll select this layer and I'll hit Ctrl D to duplicate it. And now hit enter, and let's call this layer extra. Okay, and now go to the fill, and I'm going to choose bluish color and select this extra, and make sure that you are gonna delete this drop shadow effect on it. And now select this extra and hit Ctrl D again, and this time I'm going to choose red color. Select this, hit Ctrl D. This time I'm going to choose yellow color, hit OK. Select this, hit Ctrl D, and this time I'm going to choose green color. Okay, and now after that select this and hit Ctrl D again, hit enter, and let's call it as mask. And this time choose white color. Okay, and select this and hit Ctrl D again, like this. Or don't think we need to uh, create any other, but let's just create it and hit Ctrl D, and let's call it as white and hit OK. And we will bring this white after this mask. Okay, so if I see this now, I'll get something like this. Now what we are going to do, we are going to select all of them and we will make it parent with this white, like this. Now watch carefully what we need to do. Let's select this extra and choose your y tool. I mean, sorry, not y tool, but here we need to select this pen behind tool. Shortcut key is y on keyboard, and with the help of that to pen behind tool, we can move this anchor point over here. So what is going to happen, that this circle is going to start scaling from this point. Okay, then select this extra tool and move this anchor point over here. Make sure that it should be properly on the edge. It's okay if it's outside the edge, but make sure that it should not inside the edge, like this. Then select this extra and let's move this over here. Select this and let's move this over here. Select this white and let's move this, or let's not move the anchor point of this white and this mask. Okay, now after that we will enable our G, and we will bring this after this mask. Press V for selection tool, and by holding shift I'm going to move this over here, and over here you will get this option called track matte. If you cannot see, simply press F4 like this, so you will get these options. And let's choose alpha mask, like this. Okay, so as you guys can see, we will get something like this, but we don't want actually something like this. So what we are gonna do, let's simply select this extra. At this point I'm going to move this over here with the help of open square bracket, like this. Or let's go to 20 frames and move this over here. Go to 1 frames, select this extra 2 and move this over here. Over here select this, move this over here. Over here select this, move this over here. And at 2 seconds I'm going to select this white, this G and this mask, and move all 3 of them over here, like this. Okay, so if you hit play, you will get something like this. Okay, and if you want, then you can remove this green one. This looks quite odd color, so let's move that, and let's select this and let's move this to over here. And now let's select all of these layers and let's try to move towards the 10 frames. So if I see, I'll get something like this. Let's make this fit. Okay, we will get something like this. Now at this point I don't want this extras layers, so what I'm gonna do, I'll simply hit alt close bracket, so it will remove this things over here. Now you need to select this G also, and you need to make it parent with this white one. And let's select this white one and change the color of this layer to yellow, so we can see properly that we need to animate this layer. Okay, so now if I see, we will get something like this. Okay, and now we will enable our these layers. Let's select these layers and enable this. Now I'm going to select this white layer which is over here, and at this point where these extras are going, I'll select this layer. I'll press P for position, create one keyframe, then press R for rotation, create another keyframe, and hit U. So we will see both the keyframes, and let's go to somewhere around 3.20 frames, and we will move this over here like this, and somewhere around over here 5.20 frames. I'm gonna move this from here to here like this. Okay, so if you see this, we will get something like this, but this looks odd, so we will fix that later, don't worry about it. And let's make this one complete rotation. So along with this position animation, we will get rotation animation also. And at this point, which means at the last one, I'm going to choose -1. So if you see this now, we will get this, and then we will get this. Now we will select those keyframe and we will hit F9. So let's see. But over here, as you guys can see, we will get this kind of juggle. So to get rid of that, what we are gonna do, we will simply select those position keyframes, right click, keyframe interpolation, and we will choose linear and hit OK. So now we are not gonna get that. And now we will select both the rotation and position keyframes. We will go to the graph editor. I'll select this graph by holding shift. I'll move this handle over here and this handle over here. So if you see this now, I'll get this and then this. Okay, yeah. Now at this point, where somewhere around over here, what I'm gonna do, somewhere let's say around over here, I'll select this white layer. I'll go to the drop shadow effect over here. I'll click on opacity option, hit U so we can see that, and at last I'm gonna make this opacity complete 0 so we cannot see that over here like this. Or you can simply select those keyframe and you can move them a little bit over here, so you'll get something like this. And now what we are gonna do, we will simply select all of them remaining alphabets and we will bring them downwards. And now over here, what we need to do, we need to enable them one by one. So I'll, with the help of open bracket, I'll move them over here. At this point, when my E is behind this white, I want this one should start from here. Go move this time indicator over here, select this L and move this over here. Go somewhere around over here, select this G and move this over here. Go over here, select this O, and at this point I'll select this O. So if I see, I'll get something like this. So if you see this now, I'll get something like this first and something like this first. But if you see over here, let's hit U, and if I select this much portion, as you guys can see, in between this it looks quite weird. So what we are gonna do, we will simply select this line, and by holding shift I'm gonna move this anchor, I mean the handle over here. Let's select this and let's move this over here, so it will look a little bit normal to us. Okay, press F4, select all of them and enable our motion blur. So with the help of that, what we are gonna do, we will get some realism factor in our animation along with this stuff. Okay, so this is how you can create this animation. And now we have to add some extra elements in this animations to make this animation a little bit, not so completely, but a little bit cooler. So first of all, let's hit Ctrl A to select all of them. I'll press Ctrl Shift C to pre-comp it. I'll call it as Logo Animation and simply hit OK. So inside this we have all this Google logo stuff, and now we will animate our extras. So let's select this pen tool, and now This time I don't want any field, so let's delete it. Now I want stroke, and for the stroke color I'm going to choose red color, at least for now. And then I'm from here, make sure to hold shift, move to here, to here, to here, to here, to here. So I have created this kind of shape like this. Again from here to here, to here, to here, to here, to here. Okay, so basically we are going to create some random kind of stuff, but make sure to hold shift to create these shapes like this. Okay, so we have created this kind of shapes. Now after that we will select this shape layer. Let's go inside this, go to the contents, go to the add, and we will choose round corners. Now inside this round corners I'm going to increase the radius, so as you guys can see we will get something like this. Now I'll select this round corners, I'll hit Ctrl C, I'll select all of them, and I'll hit Ctrl V like this. So we will get something like this. But if you see over here we will get something like this at this point. So it's okay, it's if it's not properly, then we cannot do anything over there. Or you can simply delete this round corner for over here, and you can try to add another round corner specially. But if it's still not there, then we cannot do anything. Okay, it doesn't matter with this one. And let's go to the add menu, and we will choose trim path. We will go to the trim path, and let's make this 0 initially. Let's create one keyframe at the end and one keyframe at the start. Go to around 2 seconds over here, and let's make this 100, and let's make this 100. Now we will select the start keyframes, and we will try to move them over here. Okay, and select those keyframe and hit F9. So if we hit play now, we will get something like this. Now let's select the trim path. We will hit Ctrl C, select all of them, and hit Ctrl V. So we will get this kind of shape like this. Now what we need to do, we will go to the 4 frames. We will select this, move this over here, go to 8 frames, select this, move this over here, move this over here, and we'll move this over here like this. Okay, we will get something like this. Now what we need to do, I'll select this one, I'll go over here, and I'll choose blue color for this one. Select this one, choose red only, select this one, choose this yellow color like this. Select this one, choose green color, select this one, and we will choose this blue color again, or let's select this yellow color. So if we hit play, we will get this kind of stuff. Now let's select all of them and press Ctrl Shift C, and we will call it as lines like this. Now select these lines and hit Ctrl D. Go to the effect and presets and search for fill effect, and double click to apply, and we will choose white color like this. And again we will apply drop shadow effect on it. Simply double click to apply, choose softness to around 50 and opacity to around 10 like this, and simply select these lines and bring this backward. And let's move this composition a little bit over here. So if you see this now, we will get this kind of stuff. Now let's select both of them, and I'll press Ctrl Shift C, and I'll call it as final lines, and hit OK, and hit Ctrl D to duplicate it. Press R for rotation, and let's make this 90 degree. So we will get a little bit of extras. Again, if you want, then you can simply hit Ctrl D, press R, and at this point you can press R again, and let's try to rotate and create something like this. If you make it 180, you will get something like this. And select about 3 of them, and let's move this over here. So if you see, we will get this kind of animation like this. And let's go to around 20 frames. We will select this final lines, move this over here, go over here, and let's move this over here like this. So if you see this animation now, we will get this kind of animation. Press Ctrl Y to create one solid background, and we will move this background downwards like this. And let's say somewhere around 8 seconds, I'll hit N. Okay, right click new and create one null object, select all of them and make it a parent with this null 2. Select this null 2. At last I am going to create, let's say, or let's go to the start and let's make this 110. Create one keyframe, go to the last keyframe and let's make this 100. So if you hit play now, we will get this kind of scaling effect also in our animation. So this is how you can create this kind of elegant looking logo reveal animation inside of After Effects. Okay, so in this lecture we are going to animate this Adidas logo. So let's create a new composition. We will call it as main animation. Width is 1920, height is 180, frame rate is 30, duration is 30 and background color is white, and simply hit OK. Then go to choose grid and guide option and we will click on title section. Then I have this png file of Adidas logo. You can choose whatever logo you want, but specifically in this type of logo reveal animations we need something which has either white or black color. Say select this logo, press S for scaling option and scale it somewhere around like this. Okay, now what we need to do, let's make this full resolution over here. Let's select this logo, go to our layer option and over here you will get this option called auto trace. So simply click on it and make sure to click on this apply on new layer and pixels before auto trace. Let's make this 0 and time spent current frame, and after that simply hit OK. So it will create one extra layer over here, and let's hide this thing over here. Now press Ctrl K on your keyboard so we can see our project settings and background color. I'm going to choose black color. Simply hit OK and then hit OK. Now select this auto trace layers, go to the effect and presets, and in search option we will try stroke and simply double click to apply this effect or stroke over here up on this layer. Now let's select this layer. As you guys can see, path is mask over here, so we need to choose all mask, and stroke sequentially I'm going to uncheck this like this. And paint style, by default it's on original image, but we need to use reveal original image like this. As you guys can see, we will get this kind of stroke over here. Now let's select this and stroke brush size I'm going to choose 20, and let's see, we will get something like this. Now let's select this and let's go to the end property over here. Initially let's make it 0 and we will create one keyframe. Hit U, so we can see, as you guys can see, we have all path keyframes. So see, if we go downwards we will get this frame over here. Go to around 2 seconds and let's make this 100. So now if you hit play we will get this kind of animation over here. Okay, hit U, press F4. Let's select this layer like this, and color over here, as you guys can see, we can manipulate this color, but if this color is not for this reveal or something, so what we gonna do, we will select this, we will press first make this into 3D over here, and whenever you are going to convert anything in 3D, over here you will find this renderer. Right now it's classic 3D, and make sure that it should be classic 3D. Sometimes by default, if you see over here, it's by default cinema 4D, so make sure to it's classic 3D and simply hit OK. Now we will select this auto trace layer and we will press Ctrl Shift C to make it pre-comp, move all attributes into the new composition, and let's call it as 1, and we will simply hit OK. We will click on this icon and we will make this layer 3D like this. Okay, so if you see this thing, now we will get something like this. Now what we need to do, let's go inside this, hit U and let's go downwards, select those this one select these stroke keyframes and make sure to hit F9 to apply ease in ease out effect on it. And if you want, then you can change the duration of this animation also a little bit extra like this. So if you hit play now, we will get this kind of animation. Let's go to the main animation now. Okay, so this is for this one. Now let's select this and press P for position, and before that what we are going to do, instead of active camera I'm going to choose left like this. And as you guys can see, with the help of, because we have converted this layer into 3D, we have this 3 axis, and I want to move this on z axis. As you guys can see, it's moving over here like this. Okay, so first of all, let's choose active camera first. Right click, new, and we will create one camera. And settings, make sure the angle of view is 40 and camera 1, and simply hit ok. Now this camera is in the front, and let's make this left view. So as you guys can see, the camera is over here and our subject is over here, and if you choose plus value over here on z axis, then it goes backwards. Okay, so now we will apply one expression on it. Simply alt click over here, open and close bracket, and inside that let's type position, open and close bracket, we will type 0. Then after that we will type comma, we will type position, open and close bracket, type 1. After that comma, hit position, open and close bracket, type 2. After that we will hit plus, and we will type one number. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna type 2 over here, then I'll hit star and I'll type index and simply hit enter like this. Okay, and now if you hit control D again and again and again, as you guys can see, we are gonna get multiple copies over here like this. Now I have created 26 copies, I'm gonna make 30 around something like this. And if you see in active camera view, we'll get something like this. As you guys can see, we cannot see any 3D effect over here, but if I press C, or you can simply select this camera tool, and if you rotate your camera, we will get something like this. Okay, like this. So let's go to the active, I mean left camera view, and make sure which one is the last layer. As you guys can see, this one is my last layer like this. Okay, let's make this active camera again. Now I'm gonna select this layer and I'll press P for position, and I'll alt click to remove this expression. So on this layer the expression is not there, so I'm gonna make it yellow like this. And right click, go to the reveal layer in source project. I'll select this layer, I'll hit control D to duplicate it, and by holding alt, what I'm gonna do, I'm simply gonna replace it with this. So this is separate layer, different composition, and this one is different composition. If you see in this left camera view, as you guys can see, this one is on the top. You can simply press P for position, select this and press P, and if you want, then you can move this to, let's say, around 4, so it's gonna go over here. Okay, now what we are gonna do, I'll select this layer first, and by holding shift this layer first, I'll hit page down button 2 times, alt close bracket, to trim this, and let's trim this up to around over here. If you zoom in, it's up to 2 seconds. Right click, keyframe assistant, sequence layers, and hit ok. But if you see, it's gonna start from here, but I don't want something like this. So what we are gonna do, I'll select this layer first, which is the 13th layer. Then by holding shift, I'll select this layer, right click, keyframe assistance, and then I'm going to choose sequence layers and hit ok. So we will get something like this. And make sure to choose quad resolution, so it's not gonna get heavy, and then we will increase the duration of it. So now what's gonna happen, that they are starting to animate one by one, but we cannot see this from here. So now we need to animate, not animate, but we need to change the position of camera. So right click, new, and one, create one null object. Select this null object and convert this null object into 3D. Select this camera and make it a parent with this null one. Select this null one, press P for position to create one keyframe, press R and create one keyframe on each rotation, then press S and create one keyframe on each layer. So, and if you hit U, as you guys can see, we have one keyframe on position, one keyframe on scale, and one keyframes on their respective 3 rotations. And let's go somewhere around at this point up to 4 seconds, and we will create another keyframe on each and every one. And now we will go to the start, and we will try to change their position and scaling. We will rotate it on y-axis somewhere around like this, then not on z-axis, but let's say on somewhere around like this. Okay, like this. And let's change the position of camera somewhere around like this. So if you see, we will get this kind of stuff. Okay, so we'll get first this and then this. So I'm gonna select this keyframes and I'll move them over here, and at this point I'll hit F9 like this. Let's go to the start, or let's go move this to around somewhere over here. Let's go over here and let's decrease the scale. Okay, so if you see, we'll get something like this. Let's select this and move this over here and hit F9 also. Okay, like this. Now as you guys know that we have to, this one is separate layer, so double click to open this and hit U. Select this auto twist and simply hit Ctrl D to duplicate it. We will go to the effect and presets panel and we will delete stroke effect from them. So as you guys can see, we will get something like this. Now I'll select this auto twist and I'll move this over here. So after this animation, I want some real animation for this. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna simply select this ellipse. I'm going to create one ellipse over here, then press Ctrl Alt Home. Simply move this ellipse over here like this. Select this shape, press Ctrl Alt Home. Initially let's make this scale 0. Create one keyframe, go few frame forward somewhere around like this and increase the scale of it. Select this layer, press F4 and choose alpha map like this, and select those keyframe and hit F9. So we will get this kind of reveal animation. And you can select this shape layer, you can go to the effect and presets panel and you can apply turbulence displace effect on it and increase the amount and decrease the size. So if you see this, now we will get this kind of reveal. Okay, so let's go to the main animation comp over here. We will get this and then we will get this, and I want this should start from here also. So let's go inside this, select this and let's move this over here. We will get something like this. Okay, now what we are gonna do, I'll select this layer, I'll go to the effect and presets panel and I'll apply fill effect on it. And instead of red you can choose different color. I'm going to choose not completely black but little bit of grayish color and simply hit OK. Select this fill effect and simply hit Ctrl C to copy. Then select this alternate layers by holding Ctrl like this. Make sure to hold Ctrl to select this alternate layers and simply hit Ctrl V to apply this effect over here. We will get something like this. And if you think the animation is quite fast, all you need to do, simply go inside this one and you can simply change the keyframe timeline like this. So animation will take a little bit time to load like this. Okay, now select all of them and press Ctrl Shift C and I'll call it as animation and I'll simply hit OK like this. Now press Ctrl Y to create one solid background. I'll call it as BG layer, and for the color I'm going to choose white color and simply hit OK and simply move this over here like this. Okay, then select this layer, go to the effect and presets panel and search for drop shadow effect and double click to apply and increase the softness like this and change the opacity to 20 like this. So if you see, we will get something like this, then something like this. Let's go to the start first. Select this null object, hit U, go over here and let's make this scale 40 and let's select those things and let's go move them to the start like this. Okay, so we will get this animation from the start. Okay, let's go to the over here. We will get something like this, and if you see this thing in full resolution, we will get something like this, but it will take a little bit time to load. So I would recommend to choose this quad resolution. But along with that, there is one lack of thing, that focus distance. So to get that, what we are going to do, first of all, inside this animation comp, hit Ctrl K to open the project settings, and I'm going to choose black color and simply hit, not black color but white color, so we can see this. And now sorry, and let's make this full resolution now. And over here, select this camera, hit double A to open it. Let's go over here and enable this depth of field. And aperture, I'm going to choose 200 like this, and blur value also choose 200 like this. So as you guys can see, we will get a little bit of blurriness over here. And focus distance, I'm going to choose 3000 like this. So along with this animation, we will get this a little bit of motion blur over here like this. Let's go to the start, let's make this quarter resolution, and let's see, we will get something like this. If you want more blurriness, then you can increase the aperture value to 400 like this. And if you want, then you can change this to 2600 like this. Okay, it's totally up to you. You can adjust the blurriness totally up to you like this. Okay, let's go to the main animation comp, and if you see this animation over here, we will get something like this. Now let's go to the start, press S. Let's create one keyframe of scaling at this point, and at this point I'm going to make it like this. Okay, and now as you guys know that inside over here, you will get this what we call, we have created this stuff over here. But if you want, then you can select this, and if you want, then you can apply fill effect on it over here. And instead of this red color, you can choose black color also, which is the original color of this logo. So in reveal, we will get something like this, and if you see this over here, we will get something like this. So if I see this animation now, first I'll get the stroke animations, then I will get this animation like this. Okay, so this is how you can create this kind of animation. And then you will apply one effect called lens, or let's say CC lens, or let's say lens flare. If you want, let's move this over here at this. What I'm gonna do, initially let's make this brightness 0. Let's create one keyframe, hit U, and let's make this 100. Go somewhere around over here, again create one keyframe, go to the last keyframe, and let's make this 0. Okay, and at this point over here, I'll create one keyframe at flare center also, and hit U. And at this point, I'm gonna move this anchor point over here. So if you see, we will get this kind of stuff over here, and hit it. So now if you see this thing, we will get this, and then this. So this is how you can create this kind of logo animation in After Effects. Okay, so now in this video we are going to create Google looping animation. This time I'm going to choose two logos of Google. One is proper Google logo, and this is Chrome logo. So with the help of this two logo, we are going to create looping logo animations. Now let's talk about this logo over here. As you guys can see, this is the logo of Google Chrome. Now this logo is divided into three parts, one with this blue color one, then this white strip, and then this red, yellow, and green look. Now in this, I don't want this white color, so what I'm gonna do, I'll simply select this logo. I'll go to the select options, I'll choose color range, and with the help of the speaker, I'm going to select this color, and I'll hit OK, and I'll simply delete that color and hit Ctrl D. Okay, then again choose select color range, select this blue color, and increase the fuzziness totally 200, and hit OK. And now I'm gonna press Ctrl X to cut it out. I'll create a new layer and I'll press Ctrl Shift V to paste in place like that. And then I'm going to save this file. Okay, so that's it for this one. Now we will go to the Adobe After Effects and we will create a new composition. We will call it as main animation. Width is 1920, height is 180, frame rate is 30, and duration is 30 seconds long, and background color is white color, and simply hit OK. Let's make this into fit, and we will choose grid and guide option, and we will hit on title section. Now I have already imported this Google logo. As you guys know that we have already created this logo file in our previous videos. Now I'll press Ctrl I again to import my Google Chrome logo. So I'll select this, import as footage. I'm going to choose composition, written layers and sizes, and I'll choose simply import and simply hit OK. Double click to open this, select both of these layers and simply hit Ctrl C. Go to the main animation and hit Ctrl V like that. But if you see, the height of this two is too much. So this is my blue one and this is my extra one. So let's select this layer and we will make it apparent with this one. Select this layer, press S, and we will scale it down like this. You can go to the align tab, align it horizontally and then align it vertically, and then you can scale it at appropriate size somewhere around like this. Okay, let's make this 10 only so we can do that properly. And now let's unlink this parenting like that. Okay, so first of all we will animate this one. Let's select this and hit enter. Select this and hit enter, and let's call it as G. Why we are going to do that, I'll explain you that later, but right now let's name it as G. Let's select this one, I'll call it as strip and hit OK. Okay, and now I'm going to enable my ellipse tool, and this time I don't want any fill. All I want is stroke, and stroke width right now I have chosen this 40 pixels, and by holding shift I'm going to create one ellipse like this. Let's choose white color so we can cover up the strip. Select this, hit enter, and let's call it as mask and hit U. Select this, press Ctrl Alt Home to align that anchor point to center. Go to the align tab, align it horizontally and then align it vertically. Press S for scaling option and scale it somewhere around like this, and also increase the stroke width until it's gonna cover the entire strip like that. Okay, now let's go inside the mask. Go to the contents, we'll go to the add menu and we'll choose trim path. Let's go to the trim path, and initially let's make this end value 0. Create one keyframe, zoom in a little bit, go to around 1 second, and let's make this 100. Okay, select those keyframe and hit F9, so we will get something like this. Okay, then go to the let's go to the ellipse one and go to the stroke, and inside the stroke I'm going to create one keyframe at the stroke width, and let's make this round cap. And stroke width initially I'm going to choose 0, and over here this point I'm going to choose stroke width 72. Okay, select those keyframe and hit F9 also for that like this. Okay, select both the keyframes, go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift, move this handle over here and this handle over here like this. Okay, hit U. Now select this G, press F4 and choose alpha mask, or let's choose alpha inverted mask. We don't need to move this for G, we want this for strip. So I'll select this strip and I'm going to choose alpha mask. So as you guys can see, we will get something like this. Now I'm going to select this strip, I'll press R for rotation, I'll create one keyframe, I'll go to around let's say 1.10 frames and I'll create another keyframe. Then I'll go to the start and I'll make this minus 90 like this, and select those keyframe, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, hold shift and move this handle over here. So if I hit play, I'll get something like this. Okay, now select this G, press S for scaling option, let's create one keyframe, go over here, create another keyframe, and at the start I'm going to make it 0. Select those keyframe and hit F9 again. Then go to the graph editor, select this graph, hold shift and we will move this handle over here. So we will get something like this. Now after that Let's go few frame forward. Let's select this strip. I'll create one keyframe over here. Go few frame forward. Let's make this 90. Then go 10 frame forward. Create one keyframe again. Go to the 3 seconds, or let's say somewhere around over here. Let's make this minus 90. Again, go few frame forward. Create one keyframe. Then go over here and let's make this 0. Okay, and select this much keyframes and hit F9. And if you go to the graph editor now, let's select this graph. By holding shift, let's move this handle over here and this handle over here. So if you hit play, we will get something like this. So if I play this from the start, I'll get this, this and this, like this. Okay, then I'm going to select this mask again and I'll hit U. I'll select those keyframes and I'll hit Ctrl C, Ctrl V, right click, keyframe assistance and time reverse reverse, like this. So I'll get something like this. Okay, now after that we will select this G. Let's go somewhere around over here. So let's select this. Let's create one keyframe at the scale, then press P and create one keyframe at the position. Okay, and hit U. We will select this one and we will hit U. So we can adjust the position of this one like this. So select those and hit F9 on both of them. And let's go somewhere around 5 seconds maybe. Let's select this. At this time scale, I'm going to make it 5. Let's select this, press V, and let's move this over here like this. So we'll get something like this. Let's select those keyframe, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph, hold shift, move this handle over here and this handle over here. Okay, so we'll get something like this. If I hit play, I'll get first this, then this. And if you want, then you can try to move this a little bit earlier like this also. Okay, now select this, hit Ctrl D to duplicate it. Now this time I'll hit enter and I'll call it as O and hit OK. And let's bring this downwards, hit U. Let's go over here and this time I'm going to move this over here. Okay, select this, hit Ctrl D. We will bring this downwards, press P and let's move this over here. Okay, this time let's make full resolution. Select this, hit Ctrl D, select this fourth layer, hit enter and let's call it as G. And let's move this over here. Select this, hit Ctrl D, select this layer, hit enter, let's call it as L. Let's move this over here. Try to position them properly. Select this, hit enter, let's call this sixth layer as E. And we will try to move this over here. Okay, now after that let's select all of them and hit U so we can see all the keyframes and try to adjust the position of all of them properly at the center like this. Okay, so if you see this now, we will get something like this. Okay, now select all of them, press P for position. Let's create one keyframe over here and go few frame forward. Let's somewhere around over here, move all of them upwards, go few frame forwards, let's move all of them somewhere around downwards like this, go few frame forward, again move them upwards like this, go few frame forward, again move them properly at the center like this. So if you hit play, we will get something like this. Now select those keyframes and hit F9 like this and go to the graph editor. Let's select this graph. By holding shift, move this handle over here and this handle over here. So if you play this now, we will get something like this. Okay, Now let's select all of them and press P. Let's go to the last keyframe, and now we will click on this position. We will right click and we will choose separate dimensions. Again we will follow this procedure for all of these alphabets. And as you guys can see, we have some little bit different over here. So let's select those keyframe and you can hit F9 again to easily use those keyframes like this. And let's go to the graph editor again. But as you guys can see, because of separate dimensions, it looks quite weird. So one thing you can do, you can simply select all of them and hit F9 again, so it will become a proper. And then you can select all of them, and by holding shift you can move one handle over here and one handle over here like this. So if you see, hit play, you will get something like this. Okay, so you can do that. And now it's time to include our Google logo. So we have this logo files over here. I'll simply select all of, not over here, but simply select all of them. I'll hit Control C. I'll go to the main animation and I'll hit Control V, and this time I'm going to change the color of this one to the yellow one so we can understand that this is logo. And we will move this over here. Right click, new, and we will create one null object. I am going to select all of them and I'll make it parent with this null one. Select this null one, press S for scaling option, and we will scale it somewhere around over here. Then press P for position. Let's bring this over here and let's bring this over here like this. Let's select this null object and let's delete it. Okay, now as you guys can see, this is my G and O and G L E etc. Now let's select all of them. We'll press T for opacity, and for this opacity I'm going to make it 20, and we will lock, or let's say 30, and we will lock all of them like this. Okay, and now we need to animate this things over here, so let's do that. After this animation, what we are going to do, we will simply select all of these circles and I'll press P for position so I can see them properly. Now let's say around 7 seconds, I'm going to create one keyframe at X and one keyframe at Y and select those layers, I mean keyframes, and by holding control I'm going to remove the ease in ease out thing on it. And let's go to around 8 seconds. I'll select this G, zoom in a little bit, and make sure that this G ellipse should come at the center of this G over here. Then we will select this O, and this should become at the center of this O. Then this ellipse, for which is this, it should come at the center of this O like this. This one should become at the center of this G. Then this should come at the center of this L, and then this one should come at the center of this E like that. So if I see, I'll get something like this. Now we will select all of them and by holding shift, and we will change the Y value of the each and every one to upward like this. Okay, and now we will select all of them, and in search bar we will type Y only, so it will show us only Y position. Select this 3 Y keyframes of each and every alphabet and try to hit F9. Then we will go to the graph editor. We will zoom in a little bit. By holding shift we will move this handle over here and this handle over here. Select this, move this handle over here, select this and move this handle over here like this. So you will get this kind of stuff. But if you think the animation is quite fast, then you can simply select all of these layers, and by holding alt you can change the duration like this. Okay, hit Control Z and hit U, but we need to select both of these X and Y, and then by holding alt we can change the duration. Now after that, what we are gonna do over here, watch it properly. Let's select unlink, I mean remove this lock. I'll select this G and I'll remove this after this GO, which is not this one but this one should be. So let's select this G and let's move this to upward to this G, or you can simply select this one and this one and you can press Ctrl Shift C and you can make this one G over here like that. But before that, what we need to do is proper adjustments. So let's select this O over here and I'm gonna move this up before this O. Okay, then we will select this one and we will put it over here in before this O. Then I'll select this G, I put it before this G. Then I'll select this L, then I'll put it before this L. Then I'll select this, then I'll put it before this L. So sequence is like the ellipse should be first, then after that it should be alphabet like this. The reason behind that we are going to parent this alphabets to this ellipse. So our sequence should be like first we need to put our ellipse, then we need to put our alphabets. So you can follow this thing properly like that. That's why I have changed the color of each and every alphabet into yellow one, so you can follow the sequence properly, like first with this color and this with the yellow color and again same procedure. Okay, so after that we will select this E and we will make it apparent with this E. But you need to understand that your time indicator, which is this one, current time indicator, it should be at the last position or after the last keyframe also. So make sure to hit use to see your last keyframe and move your time indicator or somewhere around over here. Okay, hit U again. So to unreveal this, let's select this E and we will make it apparent with this E. They'll select this L, we will make it apparent with this L. Select this, make it apparent with this G. Select this, make it apparent with this G. So basically yellow layer should be apparent with the backward lavender or any color you have chosen with this layer. Okay, so alphabet should be parent with this ellipse. So now if you see, these alphabets are moving with your what we call ellipse. Okay, so now what we are gonna do over here is we will select, not select, but let's select your alphabets, which means your yellow color layer over here. And at this point, somewhere around over here, let's move them over here. Press S for scaling option, create one keyframe, go few frame forward, somewhere around over here, create another keyframe like this. And initially let's make the scale of it somewhere around, let's see, let's select this one, all of them by holding control. I'll select and scale it down like this and select those keyframes and hit F9 like this. Okay, and after that I'm going to select all of this, what we call ellipse layers. I'll press T for opacity. I'll create one keyframe. I'll go few frame forward by hitting page down button and I'll make opacity 0 like this. Okay, then I'll select this alphabets also and we need to make their opacity 100 now. Press T and let's make the opacity of each and every one should be 100. Okay, like that. And now we will hit U again. And now what we are gonna do, we will select this ellipse and we will press U and we will press R for rotation. Let's create one keyframe, hit U, go to the last keyframe and let's make one complete rotation. So we'll get something like this. And now hit U and we will press R only, so we can see rotation keyframes only. Then select those rotation keyframes and we will hit F9. We will go to the graph editor. We will select this graph by holding shift. We will move this handle over here and we will move this handle over here like this. Okay, so we are gonna get this kind of animation like this. And now what we are gonna do, I'll select this G and this G, press Ctrl Shift C, and I'll call it as G and hit OK. Select these two layers, press Ctrl Shift C, I'll call it as O. Select those two layers, press Ctrl Shift C, let's call it as O. Select this, press Ctrl Shift C, let's call it as G. Select this L and OK. So this is how you will get this animation. If you see over here, we will get something like this. Okay, and now what we are gonna do over here is that we will simply select this. I'll select this, I'll hit Control C again. I'll go over here and I'll hit Control V. I'll press S for scaling option and I'll scale it like that, and I'll simply move them over here. We are going to use these layers just for our color reference, nothing else. So I'll move them over here like this. We are going to use this just for our color reference. So let's select this G layer. I'm going to go in fill option, effect and presets, apply fill, and double click to apply on this G. I'll choose this color for this G. Select this O, double click to apply, choose this red color. Select this, double click to apply, select this yellow color. Select this G, fill, apply this color again. Select this, apply, double click, choose this green color. Select this, apply fill, select this color. Okay, and we will delete this layers. So if you see this now, I'll get something like this. Now I'll hit page down button 2 times. I'll select this O and I'll move this over here, and we will adjust it like this. And now if you play, let's make this half resolution. Your animation will look much more cooler than before, like this. Okay, and then you can select all of them, press P for position. Let's create one keyframe, go few frame forward, create another keyframe and bring them totally downwards, not complete downward but somewhere around over here. Select those, hit F9, go to the graph editor, select this graph by holding shift. Let's move this downward like this. Let's select those and let's move them over here. Okay, like this. Now hit U, select all of them and press Ctrl Shift C, and I'll call it as Google logo like this. And go to the rectangle tool and select this rectangle, and on this layer we are going to create one mask from here to, let's say, somewhere around over here like this. Okay, go inside this, hit U, let's select this and let's move this over here. Go over here, hit page down button 2 times again like this. Select those keyframe, press Ctrl X, Ctrl V, again hit page down button, select this, hit Ctrl X, Ctrl V. So we will adjust their keyframes one by one like this. And at this point I'm gonna hit M. So if you see this now, we will get this kind of looping logo animation for our Google. And there is one thing you can do over here is that you can simply right click new and you can create one null object. You can select all of these layers, you can make it a parent with this null 2. Select this null 2, press S for scaling option, create one keyframe, go to the last keyframe and let's make this 110 like this. So along with that, go to the start and let's make this, let's say, 90. So we will get this kind of scaling animation also. along with this logo animation. Now press Ctrl Y and create one solid background layer.